Hey, in the immortal words of Judy Brown, happiness is a choice. And I'm choosing to be happy today, Zay, because I lost my semifinal singles match. The dream has come to an end. My busted knee, I'm done.
What do you mean done?
I think I have to get knee replacement.
Oh, man.
It's a grind, man. But no excuses. I lost. Dream is over for this year. But I'm still that stick that gets in the bike spokes. You know, I push guys around. I try and just trip them up,
Nah, man. When these guys, they go home to their wives and stuff, they said, yo, man, that Chip Brown's a monster. He's a problem. You got guys stressed. You got guys having nightmares, man. Thinking about that serve. Thinking about that quickness, man. Guys in shambles, losing sleep at work. They at the cubicle right now. Can't even work, not even productive. Boss asking what's going on. They thinking about Chip Brown. Facing you, man. You've been putting fear in guys' hearts for over 40 years, my guy. Know that, man. You my man.
Appreciate that.
Champ, Michigan State champ. Come on, they better recognize.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry to hear you lost, man. Who was the opponent? Who'd you lose to?
I lost to a guy named Jay Plotkin.
Okay.
There's also a sports writer here in town who covers Lake Travis for the Statesman.
Okay.
Good guy. He's in great shape. He does Camp Gladiator every day, and
yeah.
Yeah,
it's a tough matchup. Camp Gladiator every day. I love you, but just hearing that's a tough matchup.
It's a tough matchup. He got to a lot of shots I wasn't expecting him to get to. That's all right.
What do you mean you weren't expecting him to go to? You didn't have the scouting report on him? That's what you got me for, baby.
No, I'm saying I hit some great shots that like nobody our age gets to. You know what I mean? And that MFR was like tracking him down. I'm like, dang, dude, take a play off.
No.
It's all right though. I still, I won my share of those points.
I need Jay to take a urine test, man. That don't sound right.
I know.
I'm off, man. Jay might be on that Barry Bonds.
So what am I doing right now? I'm eating a little candy.
Yeah, you deserve it, man. You deserve to get like a congratulation type meal. Some, you went out hard, man. That's what I'm saying.
I'm feeling sorry for myself, but that's okay. We got lots of good stuff to talk to. We got Hank South coming up. We'll talk some Longhorns. How was your extended weekend?
Amazing. Great getting away. Definitely missed y'all, but in Minnesota, wife's family on her mom's side, my wife's grandparents, aunts and uncles, man, just good Midwestern, amazing white people. just great, man.
Good Midwestern, amazing white people.
Amazing white people, just great people. I love going up there. It's beautiful. Cabin right by the lake, state of the billion lakes or whatever the saying's called.
Right. Land of 10,000 lakes. Sorry.
10,000 lakes, man. Live right on the lake. That's where my mother-in-law grew up and stuff. And during this time of the year, it's lovely. Took the platoon out, little boat ride. Brother went fishing, just embracing it, embracing everything. Just a good getaway. Long enough. We're back at it. Push through this baseball, softball season, NBA talk and stuff. It's nice to get away every now and then, but Yeah,
Oh,
didn't see much Prince stuff, which
No?
I didn't get a chance to.
You weren't near Minneapolis?
Super outskirts. So Chicago City, it's pretty north of Minneapolis, St. Paul. We flew into that airport, but yeah, we were at, Minnehaha Park down there in Minneapolis for the first day. My sister-in-law, she spent some years there working and stuff for Target, and
Oh, yeah.
so she knew her way around. And yeah, happy wife, happy life. My wife loved it, and it was a nice getaway. Definitely needed, but back ready to go here. TSU, Chip and Zay, let's get it.
Yeah, man. We missed you. Glad you're back. Of course, I'm leaving tomorrow to go to my son's graduation, but I will do the show from Fort Collins on Thursday. So I'll have a full report from Colorado State University. I told you last week, sent off my last payment.
Must have felt good, didn't it? Did it feel good?
Minor celebration. So now
you can't celebrate too hard because your daughter, she next.
Oh yeah, and she's gonna get into like Princeton.
That's
just feel it. I feel that's good. That's good.
That's good. That's what you want. Princeton.
Yeah. We'll have to take loans and do all kinds of great stuff, but we'll get her through,
Beautiful, man.
But yeah, man, it's good to have you back. And obviously, big news last night. The NBA draft. 1.8% chance the Mavs would get the number 1 pick, and they got the number 1 pick.
See, when I be talking about Red Auerbach, I'll be saying I'm crazy and stuff, and how sketchy that time was. That was the 50s and 60s. We in 2025 now. Some sketchy stuff going on, man. Mavs, that's weird. That's real eerie.
Really? You saying someone hacked the ping pong balls?
I'm not saying it completely, but the conspiracy theorists out there, they got a good take today. They do. I'm a little bit a part of the conspiracy theorist fan club. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a
You love it.
Fun. I like to troll and be petty every now and then. But yeah, last night, Dallas Mavs coming up with the number 1 overall pick with everything that they've been through with the Nico Harrison situation. I went on X yesterday, Twitter, and said, Mavs fans, y'all owe Nico an apology. Y'all were horrible.
Let me ask you this, because everyone's like, oh, Cooper Flagg. Okay. Compared to who? Cooper Flagg, like some years the number 1 pick is LeBron, right?
Right.
And some years it's a guy we don't hear from again. So
this last pick, Zachary Ricochet.
Right. Zachary Ricochet. Where the hell's he? So Cooper Flagg, I know you like some Cooper Flagg.
I do.
But he's 6'8", 6'9". He doesn't look, LeBron's 6'9". LeBron looked different. He's powerful, explosive, athletic. Cooper Flagg, what am I getting? Because when the Mavericks take big white guys, it's not been good.
What?
Cherokee Parks, Sean Bradley.
Like American white guys.
Rafe LaFrance. Like, I need more. Kurt Nymphius. I need more. I need something
good.
It's going to get the cockles of my heart warmed,
I feel you. And you're clearly talking about white guys from America because you didn't name Dirk or Luka. So I get
Dirk,
Luka,
they were all right. You know what I'm saying? But Dirk was
they had that seasoning. They from Europe. They got that European seasoning. It's a little different.
Right. And Dirk, 7-foot jump shooter. You know what I mean?
He was the man.
He was the man. This guy's 6'9". Dalton Connect is 6'9".
See, I don't even think he's that. You know, they did all the measurements since the guys are in Chicago for the combine. Trey Johnson, Edgecombe, Dylan Harper, Cooper Flagg, all the, potential first round picks we got in this year's draft. And Cooper, they make them, measure their height with their shoes off, which is weird. Like, I would want your shoes on because that's what you're going to get on the court. But Cooper Flagg's only 6'7", 6'7", 3/4, something like that.
6'7".
Yeah, but that's not with shoes on. So let's say 6'8". We'll say 6'8".
Okay, 6'8" with shoes on, and I've seen the film. He's a hustler. He's a scrapper, but I mean, is he a game changer?
Yes, but he's not the game changer you would think of when you think about guys like Bron and guys like Durant. Kawhi Leonard might be the closest he gets to, and that's really freaking good. I think it's unfair to put it on him that he has to be that Bron caliber player.
Okay, so he's that good defensively.
Yes, he's going to be a really good defender. I think won't be the guy that's going to carry your franchise completely.
Right, but he's
very, very good too, and still be a future Hall of Famer, kind of like a James Worthy, kind of like a Scottie Pippen, kind of like a Jaylen Brown. He could be like that.
But is he as long as Pippen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got those,
he really is. He's not as athletic.
Those long arms.
He's not
stretch
quite
his ankles standing still.
Yeah. He's not quite as athletic. I don't think he'll quit on his team like Pippen did in '94, where Pippen was feeling himself and Phil Jackson had to play. Yeah, Scotty, we remember. I love you, Scotty. You're a hell of a player. I thought your ex-wife did you wrong by dating Jordan's son. That was cold-blooded. Nobody deserves that. But, Scotty, you were wrong for not following Phil Jackson's play back in '94. Even though you were the man and Mike was gone, that was
that was Tony Kukoc, right?
Yeah, man. That's what makes Scotty look even worse. Tony Kukoc hit the shot.
Right. Scotty.
So, Phil, Zen Master,
he called it right.
He called it right, thinking ahead of the game. That's why he's on
me and I'm Kukoc.
Cole, man, drinking wine, eating lasagna hours before the game. Tony Kukoc was different. But Scotty was a hell of a player, one of the greatest Robins of all time. I think Cooper Flagg can be one of the best Robins of all time. Okay. I don't think he could be a Batman. And again, that's really good. Like, if I'm Dallas, I would look into seeing what his value is out there just for Giannis. That's it. Everybody else.
To get like my guy Maxey from the Sixers.
No, hell no. I like him, but no. You got Kyrie already. This is a quote-unquote rebuilding year for the Mavs. Mavs fans won't like it, but don't expect any type of championship here in 2026 coming up. Look for 2027 when Kyrie comes back. Even though he'll be a little older, Anthony Davis will be a little older. With Cooper Flagg, if you could keep Washington and, those bigs like Lively that you have, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough.
All right, let's bring in our man, Hank South, managing editor of Horns 24/7, the MVP. I call him the MVP because he does it all, baby. Hank, how you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all?
We're just discussing the Dallas Mavericks. And, they defied the odds. The conspiracy theorists are everywhere. They get the number one pick, but is Cooper Flagg, how much of a difference maker is he?
I mean, by all accounts, I didn't watch a ton of Duke. Obviously, I know Cooper Flagg, but, I think he's the real deal. I don't think he's going to come in there and fill Luka's shoes right away, but to get a young superstar I think he turns 19 in December. So, I mean, he's supposed to be in high school right now. Talk about lucking out as the Dallas Mavericks to back into that. And then I saw there's a bunch of talk about they should trade the pick to get Giannis from the Bucks, but he's 31. Like, I think you got to roll with Cooper Flagg. I don't think you do that. I think that would be silly. So, yeah, I was really hoping the Spurs would get it, but the number 2 pick isn't bad either.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Who do you want?
I mean, I would love for Trey Johnson to go to the Spurs, but I was told, I tweeted that last night, but I was told that would be ridiculous to assume he'd go number 2. But he's projected number 5? Is that outrageous of a take that the Spurs would move up?
You know what, Hank? It's not that far out. I mean, I think Dylan Harper, who's projected to go number 2, is the better player. I don't know if he's the better fit for San Antonio.
Yeah.
And as both of y'all know, that's a difference. Trey Johnson might be the better fit to go along with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama and Stephon Castle, who just got Rookie of the Year, because Trey would just have to come in and, you're going to double team Victor Wembanyama every time he gets the ball down.
Right, I can shoot it.
He can shoot the lights out of the ball. I was a little cautious of seeing Trey Johnson measure in at 6'4". I thought he was taller than that.
Yeah.
I thought he was legit 6'6". I guess 6'5" with shoes on. But that was a little okay. He doesn't have Ant Edwards athleticism. You could still be a really good player, with his measurements and attributes and whatnot. But that was a little surprising there too. But Spurs taking them at 2. I know a lot of people will be like, huh?
Yeah.
I think that might be a better fit than Harper, but that's just me.
Yeah. You know who didn't luck out is the Rockets, who, they got the 10th pick, and now they have to deal with Wemby getting number 2 pick to pair with him and Castle, and the Mavs getting Flagg. And then you got Oklahoma, which is obviously a problem. Maybe Houston should go out and get Giannis.
Yeah. Well, Hank, we did have a commitment in the 2026 class. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Hayward Howard Jr.
Hayward Howard. I love this.
I love the name. So his dad actually was a defensive lineman at Ole Miss back in the day. So he's from New Orleans. Everyone thinks, LSU, but his dad's actually an Ole Miss guy. But he visited in mid-April at the Longhorn City Limits, and we talked to him afterwards, and he was all about Texas. I got very strong Texas vibes from him coming out of that visit. I know Texas loves him, obviously. But I put in a crystal ball just because, it just seemed like one of those recruitments where, and Texas recruits, the New Orleans era pretty well. They have Alan Clark now, Mark Orfeh, the new cornerbacks coach. He just seemed like he was really loving Texas. We had asked him about the LSU offer that had just happened. He was like, oh, it's great, obviously, but he's like, I'm not, one of the kids that is going to lean towards the in-state school just because, they came in for me. But and it was funny too. He was saying how he was actually he has I don't know if it's like of cows or of like bigger animals, but they saw Bevo and he said it scared him. He was like terrified of Bevo, but he got closer to him and felt better about him once he was around him for a little bit longer. But I thought that was a funny story. But no, 6'2", 170, 6'5" wingspans. We talk about Cade Phillips all the time with his insane length. This kid, we're seeing a trend with what Texas likes at cornerback. They like these really lanky kids that can play out on the boundary. It's exactly what Howard is. And his tape's really good. He's a 3-star, but I think any kids that come from Louisiana, Southern Louisiana, are different kinds of football players. Like these kids can play regardless of the ranking. So I think he's probably going to move up. He plays at a powerhouse high school in New Orleans and Edna Carr. He's played against D1 receivers throughout his whole high school career. So I think it's a really good take. We'll have to watch him because I'm not sure his recruitment's over. I don't think anyone's recruitment's over really in May. I'm sure LSU is going to try to flip him. Miami is trying to, get him in on an official visit as well. So probably going to be one of those recruitments we have to watch for a while. But he said he's sold on Texas. Loves Coach Orfeh. Loves the staff. Alan Clark obviously is the edge coach, but also from Louisiana, so he recruits those guys really well. Also, so I think it's a really good take and a good way to start the secondary class.
Hank, one of my favorite things is guys like a Gunnar Helm, who were 3 stars and then make it big. And now you're seeing Gunnar Helm, who just got drafted. You think about Howard, and a lot of people are just going to look at the ranking, but clearly Mark Orfe, Pete Kwiatkowski, Dwayne Akina, Sarkisian see something in this guy. And you talked about his measurables and stuff. Just talk about how these guys see diamonds in the rough, you will, when it comes to some of these players, and just knowing and trusting that, oh, this guy has it. It just might not blossom yet. We could bring that out of him because we believe in our coaching.
Yeah. I think it starts with you see a kid, you see his measurables, you see the tools that are there. I was talking to his head coach, and it was like, having a 6'5" wingspan, like that's rare. Like, so the tools are there. You look at his competition level, who he's playing. I mean, I forgot what the wide receiver's name is. He's at LSU right now. But, I was asking his coach if there was like one specific moment that he knew this kid was going to be special. And he said he was guarding this kid one-on-one in the red zone in practice. A kid that ended up going to play at LSU. I think he's a sophomore receiver at LSU now. But he said, he had him pinned and one-handed, picked it off and returned it for a touchdown. He's like, okay, this kid's pretty good. But, I mean, the measurables are there. He has legit testing data. Texas has obviously gone out to see him a few times. And again, they have those kind of critical – same thing with Saban. You have these and I think that's where Sark kind of gets this. You have kind of these baseline, tall, long – at cornerback, you move it across different positions, you put it, you match it to where it needs. But if you have those, then you can kind of move on. Then you go into the mental eval, you bring them in on campus, you watch film with them, you kind of get into their mind a little bit. I think they really liked what they saw out of Hayward Howard that day they had him in. And then, he has the tape as well. So I think it all, he's a kid that hasn't scratched, he's still working towards his ceiling. And so I think everything there, just a prospect that they can really project to, eventually be something pretty special.
And Texas has some elite camps coming up, or an elite camp coming up.
Yeah. So I believe, there's they're doing 2 elite camps. It's the Sunday, I think it's June 5th and then June 12th. So it's right before, there's Thursdays before the official visitors weekends. And then there's a June 1st elite camp as well, I believe. So they're actually doing 3 this year. Usually there's that big Texas elite camp that's kind of the first Saturday prior to official visit season, where we see a lot of offers go out. We've seen that's been the weekend where quarterbacks have committed. So it sounds like that's going to happen again. And then there'll be a couple extras. So it should be a very busy month of June with, prospect camps. And then obviously, 50 plus official visitors throughout those 3 weekends.
Is that when Diabell committed?
Yeah, so he worked out at the elite camp last year. They brought him in March of 2024. He was at the opening spring practice. They offered him, and then they brought him in to work out alongside another 2026 quarterback, Troy Hoon, who was also very high on Texas. Diabell had a really strong day. Obviously, that day they ran him through everything, with Milwee and Sark coaching him. And that was kind of when, it was Texas's race to. I think he committed a week or 2 later. After that, he went home, talked about it a little bit. But same thing with KJ Lacey the year prior. He came out, had a really good camp at elite camp. KJ Lacey committed on the visit. So, we'll see if that happens this year. I think they're still kind of sifting through the quarterbacks. There's Peyton Houston. He's the only 27 quarterback that has an offer, and he's been to Texas several times. Or I think he's been twice this year already, maybe 3 times. He's supposed to be back in June. So, as in terms of guys who have offers, he could be, the most likely if Texas is ready to accept his commitment, or, if he wants to commit. And then there's some interesting younger 27 quarterbacks, whether it's Colton Nussmeier, who's Garrett Nussmeier's younger brother, Gunnar Rivers, Phillip Rivers' son. Neither of those guys have offers yet, but, they also haven't thrown for the staff yet. So, it could be just a matter of time. Then there's some other guys like Malachi Ziegler, Kavian Bryant, and then, we'll see if any other guys pop up. But yeah, some interesting names at the quarterback position for 2027.
Are there any 27 quarterbacks that you love?
I've seen, I really like Malachi Ziegler. I saw him throw live at Elite 11 in March. He throws the ball with a lot of zip. He seems like a guy that could, eventually get more interest from Texas. I know he's talking to Texas, but probably a guy that needs to come in and work out, which I think he plans to do for that elite camp or one of the elite camps. Peyton Houston, I think that kid's a stud. He's smaller. He's kind of more of that kind of like Bryce Young mold, but every outing I've seen him throw live like 3 times now. And he's typically, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in attendance, regardless of whatever event he's at. So he's impressive. Gunnar Rivers, obviously, legacy. I think they're all pretty good, but the guys I've seen live are Houston and Ziegler, which I was impressed with. I saw Bryant throw too, and he was good as well. But I think the 2 guys to watch probably, and I'll be curious to see what happens with Gunnar Rivers and Nussmeier. I would imagine both guys, Texas brings both out. But Houston's been the one the most buzz traction to Texas. And then Ziegler's been talking to Texas a little bit more. Those are the guys we actually have like confirmed there's ongoing communication between the 2 parties.
Yeah. Hank, in the 26 and the 27 class, which position group has the most depth to it? What has the most talent, where even guys that might be forgotten could be really good D1 football players?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the offensive line is a really strong class. Let me pull up the rankings just so I can reference a little bit. Offensive line, I know, jumps out to me right away, especially a class Texas probably needs to sign 5 guys at least in 2026. Hold on, we got a tweet. Hold on one sec. Okay. Texas is out on the road offering kids. Offensive line, Felix Ojo, obviously number 1 offensive tackle in the country, 5-star from Mansfield. Then you got John Turntine III from North Crowley. Those are kind of like your 2 guys you want the most. Obviously, they have Max Wright committed as well. But then, you look beyond just the state of Texas. There's other guys they really like along the offensive line, whether it's Sam Roserborough from Clearwater out in Florida. They've offered some guys out in California. They have a kid they really like, Malachi Lee out in Hawaii that Kyle Flood went out and saw recently. He's supposed to officially visit next month. So I think top to bottom, it's a pretty deep offensive line class, which is good for Texas. It's not getting a lot of buzz, but the wide receiver class I think is really strong. It's maybe not the best year ever, but out of state, I would say really, Jabari Mack, who's committed to LSU, Aaron Gregory out in Georgia, who's committed to A&M, Naeem Burrows from Jacksonville, who's committed to Clemson. Then you look in state with Caden Finley, who's obviously Jermichael Finley's son up in Aledo. And then, some guys on the West Coast as well. But, wide receiver, offensive line, I'm looking. I think tight ends, it's not a ton of tight ends, but it's a good tight end cycle in terms of like guys that like Texas, really. Mark Bowman, who's a stud. He reclassified from 2027 to 26 from Mater Dei High School. Hezzy Kent, who's he might be the most fascinating guy just because in terms of measurables, he's 6'4", 300 pounds, and he's only recruited as a tight end. So I think some schools want him as an offensive tackle. He wants to play tight end. And when you stand next to him, he doesn't look like he's 300 pounds. He looks like a very fit, athletic, trim 300 pounds. So that could be a really interesting, kind of weapon you bring in. These jumbo athlete crazes we've seen come here and there. Hezzy Kent could be a really interesting guy out in Georgia. Caden Prothrow out in Georgia, number 2 tight end in the country. There's a kid at Duncanville, Zachary Turner, a tight end they're showing interest in as well. Probably not a top target, but certainly one they're interested in. And then linebacker, there's some really good linebackers in the class, whether Tyler Atkinson out at Grayson, Xavier Griffin out in Georgia. So, there's certainly some elite talent in this class, but I'd probably go offensive line first.
Okay.
What about my big interior defensive lineman? We got any buzz going on?
So they're working on it. Another, it is interesting. I need to do a story on this because there's like a lot, you obviously want to recruit the state of Texas first. That's kind of your lifeblood in recruiting. But like you look at this official visitor list for June, it's a lot of out-of-state kids. Like maybe the majority are out-of-state kids. I need to actually dive into the numbers and actually look at that. But in terms of defensive linemen, they have, guys from Alabama they really like, Rodney Cleveland, Emmanuel Ruffin, both two kids that, pushed 300 pounds that were on campus last month. A kid that's kind of growing more buzz, trending to Texas, Kendall Gerville from Fort Myers, Florida. He was on campus last month. He talked to one of our reporters, Brian Doan, said it was a 10 out of 10 visit. I saw he told another outlet that I think he told On3 that they were his leader afterwards. So that's another interior guy they really like. I'm curious to see a guy like Jamion Winfield, who's up in Richardson. He's actually committed to USC. He committed pretty early, so I'm curious to see if that stays a thing with Texas continuing after him. He's a really talented kid, originally from Mississippi, moved into Richardson, and is committed to USC. He was at Texas earlier this month, earlier this year for Junior Day. So he's another interior guy. Then looking down the list, James Johnson out of South Florida, a guy they like on the interior. Jaraylen McCoy from Tupelo, Mississippi, 3-star. Again, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, 3-star defensive lineman from there. Go get them. Like those are the guys you want.
Load up.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all works out. I think we'll have a clearer picture in terms of where they stand with some of these guys. Like last summer, we entered it kind of thinking Josiah Sharma, Myron Charles, and a few others were kind of the guy. Ended up being the guys. Took a minute because they both committed elsewhere first. But this year is not as clear cut as who are going to be those guys, but they're in the mix with a bunch of them.
So CB says USC is killing it.
Yeah.
What the hell's USC doing? They've been lost at sea for a couple of years.
Yeah. They got a new GM who's doing a good job, but the onus is now on them to keep the class together. You get all these early commitments. That's great. It's not really decision-making time right now anyway. So, now let's say you have a rough season. These kids are all going to jump ship. Like it's, we saw, Justice Terry was committed to USC for a minute. And Texas is recruiting some USC kids. Winfield, we just mentioned, Xavier Griffin, the 5-star linebacker committed to USC. I think he's actually pretty strong with USC, but he's originally from Alabama. Alabama's trying to flip him. And then Texas is in the mix too. Like they got him out on campus with his mom. I think they're probably going to get him back for an official visit as well. I'm told it's not scheduled yet, but they're working on that. So, just keep getting these guys on campus, keep getting them familiar, and hope that Georgia to Los Angeles is too big of too wide of a gap for travel. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hank, who is Daniel talking about right here?
Yeah. So Tiki Hola, he committed. He's from Bastrop. So as I understand it, Texas, Texas liked him. I'm not sure they were really putting their foot on the gas for him. He just committed to Notre Dame. That kind of, after Junior Day, I think in January, there just wasn't a ton of buzz, connecting him to Texas. I think he's a really good player. I think he's, Notre Dame's probably a really good fit for him. I think Texas just, decided to make their priorities elsewhere. Not to say they didn't like him, or maybe they were just a little bit slower in the eval process with him, or, when they wanted to push for him. So, yeah, he ended up at Notre Dame.
High or Cedar Creek? Okay.
No, he's Bastrop High School. Yeah, okay. So talented kid. For a while we thought he was going to end up at Texas, but it seemed like they kind of faded out a little bit with him. Whether I don't know which side more it was, but it didn't seem like Texas was really pressing too hard for him here the last few months.
He's a defensive tackle, 4-star defensive tackle, Tiki Hola.
Yeah, and you typically want to keep your Central Texas talent in Central Texas. So, and again, maybe they come back in October and they're like, hey, we actually really like you, Tiki Hola. Not to say we ever didn't, but we're gonna try to make it a little more competitive to try to get you, and we'll see. But I think Notre Dame's a pretty good landing spot too. There's worse schools to end up at than Notre Dame for sure.
Yo, Tiki Hola, that sound Polynesian. Where you at, Johnny Manson? What's going on?
Yeah.
It would have been easy,
The Poly Whisperer.
I know. He's working on some guys. There's he was out in Hawaii with I don't know how to say the kid's name, but Talanoa Ely.
That's a good sign. The fact that you don't know how to say his name is a good sign because I still don't know.
Talanoa Ely. I like it.
Yeah, and then
What position he play?
He's an inside linebacker. So we actually put him in our mock class on Monday. Just linebacker's kind of hard to kind of figure out right now. I think one guy we feel really good about is Kosi Okpala from Maid Creek. I think he's going to end up at Texas. Beyond that, it's tricky to kind of piece together who else it could be. I think we'll know more in the summer, but a spot they probably need to sign 3 kids at least. Two cycles you get Anthony Smith in 24, and then you only take 2 out of high school in 25. So probably need to reload the cupboard there with Anthony Hill, more than likely going to be a top 15 pick next year in the NFL draft. So
yeah, you got to hope Brad Spence doesn't have such a good year that he leaves after his junior year.
True.
Because you got what Zay? What?
Why would leave Texas?
He's a junior. He's draft eligible after this season. The dude's got skills.
Oh man, you gotta up that price with him a little bit if he has that good of a year.
All right, that's fine.
He's not on the PFF top 200, so
okay.
We'll
see, that's good.
I like that.
Under the radar. Hell, somehow Anthony Hill didn't make the Butkus finalists last year. It's like he's under the radar, for God's sake.
All right.
It's ridiculous. So, yeah, the needs, Hank, you said they probably need 3 linebackers. You said they probably need how many offensive linemen?
I would say at least 5,
5.
If you look at it, because they took let's see, they had 5 committed last year before signing day, and then John Mills flipped to Washington, so they took 4. They had Brooks, the Coleman twins. Who am I missing? Why am I blanking out on the 4th offensive line?
Let's see. Nick Brooks and
Jackson Christian. Yeah. So, I would think they'd probably target 5, and it makes sense. They have Nick Robertson, they have Max Wright committed. Got to imagine, they're going to get one of Felix Ojo, John Turntine. I think they're going to get both. That's 4. And then maybe a guy like Sam Roserborough. And then, maybe if there's another guy that's just like too good to pass up on. So that's a pretty strong class. You have 3 tackles, 2 interior guys. And, the tackles are, Turntine can probably – people think Turntine's an interior guy. We'll see. Texas is recruiting him as a tackle. So, but yeah, so I think 5 offensive linemen. I think at least 3 linebackers. The good thing about defensive line is they got some guy, they have some like guys with some eligibility remaining.
Yeah, they're backfilled.
Yeah. So, maybe not as pressing unless, again, you could look at this and say like, it's not a need, but then in tech, this doesn't typically happen to Texas, but guys could transfer out. A position that wasn't a need could become a need. Like I don't think many people expected Mari Nyblack to leave when he was probably going to get some heavy usage this year, but A&M had something else to say. So, yeah.
What did Hank say? I mean, Zay, what did you say if Amari Nyblack has better numbers than Jack Endries, you're going after Jeff Banks?
I'm going to be pissed.
Jack Endries. So Cooper Patagna on 24/7 just went on our board, and they actually boosted Endries in the top 150 of the rankings. They have him as the number 4 tight end in the portal altogether for both windows. And then PFF actually had him as the number 67 draft prospect entering 2025. So he was my dark horse pick for first Texas Longhorn drafted next year. I feel like he's going to have a huge, huge year.
Yeah.
As long as, you got to – I would imagine he and Arch are going to have pretty good chemistry, but, we haven't seen it yet. So you don't know just yet, but I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, he's a redshirt guy. So he's actually about to play his 4th year of college football, even though he'll probably be listed as a junior. So you got to keep your eyeballs out.
He played the most snaps of any tight end in the country his second year, his sophomore year, redshirt freshman year. He played like 800 and something snaps, which was the most of any tight end in the country. He's a former walk-on, so you got to like that about him too. But but yeah, I'll be curious to see how he fits in this offense.
Yeah, I like that. I like that Endries has played a lot of football. I like that Emmett Mosley, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th, came in and was like just a dog.
Yeah.
6 touchdown catches as a true freshman, 3 of them on 4th down. I like me some Emmett Mosley, the 1, 2, 3,
that
4.
really couldn't have worked out better for Texas. Like they were on him. Like the portal window wasn't even open. I mean, obviously it was open for Stanford because they fired their head coach. So that's why they were able to recruit him. But like Emmett Mosley kind of just falls into your lap. And not to say that didn't work for him, but I mean, that's about as good a receiver you can get, I think, out of the portal. Kid with multiple years of eligibility, proven stats. Like, I think that was a big win.
Great athletic bloodlines.
Yes.
Mom won the Heisman for women's soccer, for crying out loud.
He's a stud. So
yeah, I like that. Zay, you got anything else?
Yeah, Hank. Last one for me. When you think about this Texas coaching staff and all the new additions that they've added, what have you been hearing from some of these recruits when they talk about these coaches and that process?
Yeah, pretty positive things. Like you can kind of see the guys that are like really taken, like that just like thrive on the road. Like I think Alan Clark's one of them. He's a guy that I think just like loves to be on the road. Like he's the coach we've seen the most out. Like he's taking pictures of the guys. Like I mean, he's young. Yeah, he's young. He's got the energy. So I think he's really taken on that role well. I think, he's going to win some recruitments for Texas. So I think, he was a big part of Hayward Howard. So, I think he's a guy that's really, impressed. I've heard really good thing about Mark Orfe. The kids really like him. Like, obviously they got Hayward Howard to commit, but like Samari Matthews, who's a big cornerback target out in North Carolina. I mean, he came in, offered him, I think he was one of his first offers from Orfe. Kid immediately put Texas in his top 4. I think Texas is leading for him. Like that's how much he liked Mark Orfe. So I've heard really positive things about him.
What's that kid's name?
Samari Matthews. So he'll be on an official visit in mid-June. Another kid that's like, 6 foot plus, long arms, like the Texas cornerback mold. So that's one. I think Chad Scott's done a really good job. I think, obviously it's tough to come in and fill the shoes of Tashard Choice, who was probably, your ace recruiter on the staff. And, he immediately got Texas back into contention with KJ Edwards, probably leading for KJ Edwards, who's obviously a top 50 running back in the country. Xavier Crowell, who's one of the top running backs in the country. After Choice left, he canceled his OV. Chad Scott got on the phone with him, got him to reschedule the OV. I still think the kid's going to Alabama, but they're going to get him in on a visit. Maybe, crazier things have happened in recruiting. So that's something to watch. And then, they got in the mix with this Derek Cooper kid down in South Florida. I think South Florida. Let me check his high school real quick. So I'm not, but he's rated as an athlete. Yeah. Chaminade Madonna down in Hollywood, Florida. But, 6'1", 205-pound running back. He canceled his Penn State official visit. I think he's going to come into Texas that weekend next month. So he's done really good things as well. Plus, your coach that are already on the staff with, Chris Jackson's a strong recruiter. Dwayne Aquina, I think is going to get his guys. So but Clark, Orfe, Scott, I think they've done a really good job in their limited time on campus.
So, when we look at Trevor Gooseby, this comes in. CB may only get 1 year of Trevor Gooseby. He's that good. What are your thoughts on Gooseby and just how talented he is replacing Kelvin Banks?
I mean, I think we saw it with, coming in for Banks against A&M. He held his own against a really good defensive front. How many guys got drafted off the A&M defensive front?
Right.
Like 3, I think.
Yeah, Nick Skuritin, Shamar Stewart,
and Turner. But Turner got drafted.
Yeah.
I think that just goes to show you right there that he came in and when Cam Williams got hurt, he was able to flip sides, like the versatility. I agree with Chris. Like, I mean, if he has a pretty strong year, I think he's going to get some big time draft buzz. I mean, we saw it didn't work out in the end for him. He still got drafted, but earlier this year, Cam Williams was getting top 15 pick draft buzz early in the season in his first year starting. Still went a little bit later, but if he can play like the way he was playing and later in the season when he was filling in and doing his job as the backup, I would not be shocked to see him be a draft board climber this time next spring. So we'll have to see, but Nick Brooks waiting in the wings. You can flip Brandon Baker over, so they've got some good guys coming up.
Hank, great stuff, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Let's do it again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
right.
it.
Yep.
There he is, Hank South, managing editor, horns247.com. I mean, you got Trevor Gooseby, you got Brandon Baker and Andre Kojo battling it out at the right tackle position. We got Nick Brooks already getting second team reps at left tackle. That's a great sign, because if Gooseby has a breakout year, you need to have the next guy ready.
You got Nick Brooks still there at second string, even with all the crazy stuff?
Hey.
I'm just asking. Guys get penalized sometimes for what they do off the field. I'm just asking. Free Nick Brooks.
His lawyer is getting after APD about that search.
Oh, for real? That's what you heard?
That's what I heard. And that's what you want.
That's what I want.
You stopped me for speeding. You stopped me for speeding, and now all of a sudden you're sniffing around in my car, man.
Hey, that sounds very Johnny Cochran. I'm with it. It shouldn't have gotten this far anyway. You know what I'm saying? What happened to the old days when you called the coach first before anything gets to, hey, coach?
Yeah, you mean like Varsity Blues?
Yeah, Varsity Blues. Yeah, Tweeter was out of control. Tweeter,
come on, man.
Yeah, man, they were eating at the diner and stuff like that. Everybody was gossiping. Coach turned around and said, "You got something to say about one of my players?" Nah, coach. They just kids. That's how it should have been handled. Yep, the show must go on. Absolutely.
Oh, man. Hummer will join us on Thursday. He's got stuff going on today, so
Yeah,
we'll
grind Hummer.
Yeah.
My man grinds. I respect it.
Oh,
okay. So I know you talked a lot of baseball yesterday with my man Street. Hell of a job. I just gotta give my take on this baseball team before we move on.
Hey, yeah, I got a take on Jonah.
Yeah. I got my ignorant side, loved it. My ignorant side's a big part of me. I'm very prideful and proud of my ignorant side, but I could definitely reel it together and lock in and stay focused and be very objective about the situation and professional. He was wilding.
Right, he walked.
Points.
He was kind of prancing. The pitcher said something to him. Jonah said something back.
Yeah.
Then the first baseman was like, yo, you walked and you're losing 8-1. And then the next night, Jonah hit the game-winning 3 RBI double.
See, if he relishes off of that type of energy, again, he's a football player. So that's why if you're Jim Schlossnagle, you can't be that upset. This ain't an old school OG baseball player that grew up watching Mickey Mantle and stuff. That's not what you're getting here. And you know me, when it comes to the game of baseball, I think some of the things are a little dated on how quote unquote professional and respectful of the game that you have to be. I respect the OGs, the Babe Ruths, and the guys like that. I respect all that. That time, Negro League, all that stuff. I love for it. I respect it. But sometimes the game can get a little stale, and you need somebody
with some juice,
energy, with some juice, for real. You need some of that. I can appreciate that. The 86 Mets is my favorite team of all time. Easy.
Gary Carter.
Yeah, man. Darryl Strawberry.
Hernandez.
All them dudes, man. Them dudes doing cocaine, living fast, having fun, will fight you in a heartbeat. It was all, but when it came to business, it was all about business. Doc Gooden, high on just everything.
High on life.
High on life, exactly. So,
well, the funny thing about Jonah is, and I told my wife this because she's, she went to Texas. She loves her some baseball. And we were talking about how Jonah at the plate, if a guy throws a strike, Jonah will nod his head like, okay. All right. But if he throws a ball, it's, and I'm sure that is getting around, the pitchers see it in the scouting report, but I love it. Because
they need that right now. They need some. They got no energy. It was a tough series. That Florida series, that was rough. Friday, Sunday.
Coming off the flu that went through the team. I know no one's talking about that, but it's real. It happened. Ruger had the flu like 3 days before he pitched, and he didn't look good.
He looked like he got the flu, the BGs, mono, COVID. The way that they be tagging him up, I hope he gets his Pedialyte electrolytes in because he needs it. He's had a rough couple of outings.
Hold on. I got to take this call. I'll be right back.
All right, go ahead, take the call. We'll keep it rolling. Dang, man, president calling? What's going on, man? Somebody super important, but we keep it rocking and rolling here on Chip and Zay. I'll do some sponsors since my man Chip Brown is gone, like McCall Custom Homes. You're thinking about renovating your home. Trust the experts. Don't trust those jabronis and guys that just got in the game and haven't been doing it for 50 years like the McCall guys have been doing it. The father and son duo are the best, and they will turn your house into a home, whether it's your kitchen, bathroom, outdoor space, doesn't matter. McCall Custom Homes, those guys are the best. So if you want to hit my boy Mike up, give him a call at 512-633-9580. It's 512-633-9580, or shoot him an email at Mike@McCall Custom Homes. Hit up their website, McCallCustomHomesATX.com, and see their work on Facebook, Instagram at McCall Custom Homes. It's McCall Custom Homes. We build value into your home. And Covert Bee Cave, Covert Automotive Dealerships, they've been doing it in the greater Austin area for over 100 years and been doing it very well. New, pre-owned, it doesn't matter. They are the best. And if you don't want to take my word for it, then listen to these great people of Covert Bee Cave.
They treat you like family. My husband and I have bought several vehicles from the Coverts over the years, and it's always just been easy and effortless.
By the time we walk into the dealership, paperwork's ready and we're ready to buy.
I walked in, literally signed a couple of things, and I was 10 minutes in and out.
They just take care of everything.
I personally feel like people took care of me. I feel like as they're taking care of me, if they take care of other people that I know, it's just that much of a plus.
Covert, born and raised in Austin,
where you are always treated like family.
No one beats a Covert deal. Not now, not ever. And Leaf Landscape Supply, full service wholesale and retail plant nursery and landscape supplier in the ATX. Check them out at both of their amazing locations. If you are down south, check them out off of Monterey Oaks and 290. If you are up north, check them out off of Palm Springs Road. Whether it's trendy house plants to refill any landscaping job, collection of specialty plants and rare plants, they're your one-stop shop for everything you need. So go to their website at leaflandscapesupply.com and see what they have to offer. Remember, when you go in, you get 10% off if you mention the boys here at TSU, 10% off if you mention the boys at Texas Sports Unfiltered at Leaf Landscape Supply. All right, appreciate y'all. We're riding with us here on a Tuesday afternoon on Chip and Zay, somebody on the Coda text line. And if you want to hit the Coda text line up, it is 512-222-9328. We're talking about the draft a little bit and Trey Johnson. Someone said Trey Johnson has good measurables. Arm length is crazy. Got to learn defense, 3 and D. I agree with a lot of that. And what we were kind of talking with Hank about, with the Spurs situation, I don't know what the Spurs are going to do. They're in a good situation. I think you could see positives in taking action on maybe sending that number 2 pick away and trying to get someone like Giannis. I don't know how realistic it is, though. I haven't really dug deep into all the finance issues and what your cap space is and what Wemby is projected to get paid and how much De'Aaron Fox is going to ask for. Haven't broke that down yet, but Giannis, for the first time in his career, has talked about, hey, I want to get out there. I want to see what's out there. Milwaukee ain't working. I think it's I did my job here. They drafted him, won a championship. Giannis, he good. You know what I'm saying? So now with Dame Lillard's situation, tearing his Achilles, freaking Doc Rivers, who might be one of the most overrated coaches of all time. We get it, Doc. 2008, great year. You had KG, you had Paul Pierce, an emerging Rajon Rondo. You had Ray Allen. Like a lot of coaches probably would have figured it out and got to the mountaintop. But can't take it away from Doc. He's an NBA champion. It's just, you seen his track record, with his Lawrence Fishburne looking self. You seen his track record going back to the Clippers and, going back to the 76ers and now Milwaukee. It's just Doc. I don't know, man. I feel like he's trying to prove people wrong. So you're dealing with all that circus down there in Milwaukee. Sometimes you want to see if the grass is greener. Giannis apparently doesn't want to deal with the state income tax. We don't got that here in the state of Texas. So that's why you see all 3 teams from Texas that represent the association, Spurs, Mavs, Rockets. They're trying to see what they can get in the Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes. And, Giannis or KD, I think that depends, CB. I think that really depends on what you want, what you're looking for. Because KD, hell of a player, but past year for KD was weird. It was weird for the whole Phoenix Suns organization. I can't put that on Kevin Durant. It was very odd. And him at that age, I don't know if that would work. Talking to CBS, KD or Giannis about the Spurs situation or the Mavs or the Rockets, who's going to go after them. I don't know. I would say Giannis just because he's younger, but that's about it. And that's just how the Suns looked. And maybe I'm just a little petty and salty, Chip, because I picked Phoenix Suns on a dumb take to win it all this year. Not one of my better takes. I'll admit when I'm wrong. You
were feeling it. You love you some KD.
I do love me some Kevin Durant. It was a rough year. Devin Booker, it was a rough year. You know what I'm saying? So I would want to say pick Kevin Durant over Giannis, but I don't know, man. Maybe Giannis just needs a new atmosphere to really showcase that he's still one of the guys that deserves to be the face of the league, like he is in Milwaukee, but it just got stale there. So if you're the Spurs, are you gonna stick with Dylan Harper, but also have De'Aaron Fox? Like, I don't know. Dylan Harper's a heck of a player, and I think it's Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, and then the rest. Like, I think Flagg's up here, Harper's down here a little bit, and everybody else is a big step below. Dylan Harper could ball, Ron Harper's son, so he's got good genes. He kind of has a mixture of, you see a little bit of Harden in this game. You see a little bit of Jalen Brunson in this game. He's more athletic than Brunson, not as athletic as Harden was, but he has a certain craftiness to him that's going to make him a problem. But also, you just got De'Aaron Fox, who I would take over Dylan Harper because he's more established and has more, of a veteran mindset. It's just Harper's going to take some time to get acclimated to the NBA game. De'Aaron Fox is there. De'Aaron Fox is an all-star level player. Him with Wembanyama, him with Stephon Castle, and maybe if somehow you could figure out a trade to give them that number 2 pick, maybe that other pick that they have in the draft that's in the double digits to Milwaukee, and you could bring in Giannis to go with that. That's a lot of money. Somebody's going to have to be nice and be like, I don't want this much. I don't need this much. Who's going to be that guy? Who's going to swallow their pride? I can see Victor Wembanyama doing that just because that's the Spurs way. Timmy took less money. Manu took less money. Tony took less money. All those guys, they did what they had to do to make it work. They're not flashy, even though Tony had his Eva Longoria moment. They're not that flashy like that. They are all low-key guys. I think Victor Wembanyama fits that mold. Does Giannis fit that mold? I think he does. He also has that European background to him that makes San Antonio attractive because he's seen how they take care of their European players and how those guys, when they come to that culture, it's a fit. So I would try that first, but even if it didn't work and you had to stick with a Dylan Harper, that's not a bad pick either. He could play. It's just him and Stephon Castle. Later on in the future, you're going to have to make a decision on which one of those guys to keep. If you could keep them all and keep both of those guys, Harper and Castle, and somehow mold Harper into a Derek White, Drew Holiday type, where they could fit in as really, really good role players to what Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox bring, then, hey, you cooking with fish grease. But the way Dylan Harper plays, he has the ball in his hands a ton. He's a scoring, creating point. Stephon Castle, on the other hand, he could play without the ball. That's what he did at UConn with Dan Hurley. He's used to that. So that's why I think he's a better fit than Harper is if the Spurs ever had to make a decision. So they're in an interesting situation. They're in a good situation, and the Mavs are too. Like, I would float Cooper Flagg's name around to Milwaukee and see what you could get. Why not? Why not? See what you could get. I think either way, you're going to be good because Cooper Flagg's a hell of a player, and I think he's a very, very good Robin and can be that. I don't think he's a Batman player. I don't think Kyrie at this point of his career is a Batman player. I don't think Anthony Davis at this point of his career is a Batman player. But if you have a lot of Robins on your team, you can make some things happen. You saw it with your 04 Pistons. There was nobody. They were all really, really good. There was no huge superstar. Ben Wallace, Rashid, Chauncey, Rip. There was no huge Tayshaun. There was no huge superstar there. So it could work. You could have a lot of Robins on one team and thrive. You don't always have to have a top 5 player in the league. It's just everything else has to work, from the coaching staff, from the players around them, etc. Health, luck, all those things that you're seeing now, those things have to come to the table. It's fun. It's fun to talk about. I thought the NBA was crazy and did a lot of big numbers yesterday. It's fun. I can appreciate
it. One of your other teams you like, the Warriors, they're not the same without Steph. You know, everyone's like, oh, Jimmy Butler's not doing it. Well, Jimmy Butler's got 6'9".
Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough matchup for Jimmy Butler. He's 36 years old.
Damn, he's that old?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's different. Yeah. It's different if he's got Steph out there, you know, but of course Jimmy Butler's going to get the best, you know, defensive player. So, well, he's 35. He'll be 36 in September.
Okay. Still not good, but
right. 4 years past his prime, allegedly. Your prime in the NBA is 25 to 31, which is an interesting thing to consider when you're thinking about Giannis, because he's amazing, all-star two-way player, world champion, but he's leaving his prime. I don't know. Is he one of those guys who defies prime?
I think he can be with the right guys around him. You know, the year they won it, they had Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton was playing at an all-star level, and Giannis was the best that we've seen him in his career. That block that he had on the alley-oop on DeAndre Ayton in the finals, like, that's ridiculous. You know, that's one of those historic NBA film type moments that we'll always remember from that series. Like, that was the biggest moment of the series. Clutch time, Devin Booker throws the lob, DeAndre Ayton thinks he has a clean dunk. Here comes Giannis onto the cupo with the block of his career. And, you know, Mike Budenholzer, the coach of that team, it kind of just shows how good the role players have to be on a championship caliber team. And if the main guy goes out like a Steph Curry, you could see a team get got. Like, it's hard to last 82 games and be ready for the playoffs, especially if you're playing international ball in the summer like so many guys did during the Olympics. Look at all the guys that were in the Olympics that dealt with injuries. Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum now. Hopefully it's not his Achilles, but that looked like an Achilles injury to me, especially going back on the history of seeing Kobe hurt his, Kevin Durant, Dame. That didn't look good. LeBron, Steph, all those guys in the Olympics. Ant Edwards, he's 23 years old, so knock on wood, hopefully he can avoid it, but he's gotten nicked up a couple of times here in these playoffs. It's hard to last, man, because injuries will get you, or straight up fatigue, like the shape that you have to be in. Greg Popovich saw it a long time ago. That's why load management became a thing for him, because he knew. He's like, man, these guys have been playing this child's game since they were children. That's a lot of wear and tear, no matter what. Giannis has gone through it. All these guys, Donovan Mitchell's going through it. It's difficult to overcome. The most healthy, a lot of the time, wins. Celtics last year, super healthy. They won it all. Now they're dealing with injuries, and they're on the cusp of getting knocked out the playoffs by the New York Knicks, who are healthy. It's tough, man. And Anthony Edwards is giving them boys business. I'm wearing my Bring Your Ass shirt. So I got to give a shout out to my Minnesota folk down there. I was watching the game 3. Grandpa Dick, my wife's grandpa, great guy, Minnesota through and through, born and raised. You know, it's fun watching it with him because he loves him some Wolves. But, yeah, like Ant Edwards right now, he understands the moment. Once Steph got hurt, he knew, we can't even allow Steph to come back. He's that dangerous. we got to squeeze the life out of him when we have the chance. Like, we wish that he was here. We don't want to see anybody hurt, but hey, you can't feel sorry for him. You got to go after those guys because Steve Kerr is still a hell of a coach. They still have a good game plan. He's still getting a lot out of the Warriors. What Jonathan Kuminga's doing has been very impressive, but they just don't have enough. Like you said, Jimmy Butler, the age that he's at, and plus he's still so new to the team. So it's still a process with him getting used to the guys. And he was getting used to Steph being out on the court because now he could be Robin. And he's a really good Robin at this point of his career. But now you want him to be Batman again. And with this new team, it's just he's trying, but it's just not adding up. He had a really good game 3, but Draymond being dumb, fouling out the game, bad move. Really bad move. So here you are in game 4. Wolves go on a crazy run in the third quarter, outscore you by basically double. Jaden McDaniels is in his bag. He's a terrific finisher on the break. He's a solid 3-and-D guy. Alexander Walker. Julius Randle's really surprised me. He's been impressive. He's been really good.
Yeah,
Edwards.
I didn't think he had that left. He must love the team he's with. He must love the guys around him. And I mean, who wouldn't love playing with Ann Edwards? But
yeah, the only thing that I think might get them beat if they were to lose in the series, I don't know why they're playing Mike Conley so much. That's kind of Chris Finch. I get it. He's a vet. He's a leader. He plays way too much for me. The game that they lost in game 1? A lot of that was because Mike Conley he's old as hell. He was a part of that 2007 draft with KD. And he's small.
So your take 2 was Lakers or Warriors versus Celtics. And I'm in trouble too, because I had the Nuggets and the Celtics. So are you ready to do a take 3 right now? Like, do you have a feel that this team is playing that team in the finals?
No, I really don't.
Okay.
I feel like Indiana's going to win. They got that 3-1 lead. New York's going to win, so they're going to meet each other in the conference finals. That could go either way. That would be a hell of a series. And then I don't know who's going to come out of this Nuggets Thunder series. That game 4 was ugly. That game 4 was a tough watch, man. Neither team could put the ball in the hoop. SGA made enough plays for them to get the dub, but the Nuggets, they look a little fatigued also. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, they be huffing and puffing. Same with the Thunder. They look a little tired also because the way that they play during the regular season, they can't play that way here in the playoffs. A lot of SGA foul baiting, getting to the line. He's not getting those calls. So sometimes he takes some really bad shots because I think he's just so programmed for his game to complement the regular season. He tries to do some of the same things in the playoffs, and it doesn't work. And in game 3, Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, he should have been the one with the ball in his hands late. But SGA has to be the man. He knows he's the MVP. He wants to prove to everyone that he's better than Jokic, and that cost him game 3. Game 4, he was a lot better of playing – to what the defense was giving him, not trying to foul bait, just trying to take advantage of whatever mismatches that he had. And now that series is tied. I don't know who's going to win it. You would like to think that championship DNA for the Nuggets will give them the edge because the Thunder are still so inexperienced, but Jokic and Murray, again, they just look a little fatigued. They look tired. Nikola Jokic has no legs, man, on those three-point shots. 3 and 4, he shot atrociously from the 3. Like, you should be used to the altitude. Like, you play there majority of the year. So
well, they're banging on him. You know, that was a good pickup to get Hartenstein because he's just banging on Jokic, and you got Chet Holmgren doing a little, but not much. But you know, okay. So the call that I jumped off the show for, Aaliyah Moore, the 6'1" senior forward for the Texas Longhorns, is going to have surgery on both knees.
Both of them?
Later this month, she will have a 12-month recovery and try to come back for the 26-27 season.
Damn.
So that's a hell of a deal. But
yeah, God bless her heart, man. I feel for her. Both knees. That's tough.
Yeah.
Like, you knew something was wrong just because she couldn't get back. And they missed her this past year.
Yeah, they did.
They really could have used her, especially against those losses to South Carolina.
You needed a tough, not going to back down type of player. And I hope she gets relief, because as a guy who's contemplating knee replacement, it's brutal, to be constantly fighting it. So, and she's young. I mean, and then obviously we got some breaking news here about, baseball is so weird. They're just so weird. They finally have come to their senses and they've reinstated Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. These guys are both dead. It's like, what are we doing? But they, you probably should reinstate the all-time hits leader, or at least the guy who had that record for, one of the greatest to ever play the game. And obviously, he was, betting on the games or whatever, but you get suspended for that. You don't get like a lifetime ban.
Yo, I saw Draymond doing some sketchy stuff. Game 3, after he got booted, somebody read his lips when they had the camera on him, and he was talking about the spread's 5.5. And then the Warriors hit a 3. He was on the bench, fouled out the game. And you can read his lip, but he's like laughing and smiling, talking about the spread and stuff. If I'm Adam Silver, I'm giving him a call like, dude, can we not talk about gambling? Like, can we wait? Even though you're not betting on it, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for you to be mouthing that off. You know what I'm saying? And, I get it's Draymond. He going to be Draymond. He pushes the limit, boy. Gosh, he pushes the limit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I flipped on my Instagram feed this morning, and there was a extended clip of Draymond to LL's, Mama Said Knock You Out. And it's just all of his kicking guys in the balls and punching them in the face. And yeah.
Now I couldn't talk about this because I wasn't on last week when he said this after game 3 about how everyone's trying to make him the angry black man. Draymond, come on, bro. You can't play victim. I'm a Draymond fan. I am, because I think he's a future Hall of Famer. He's like a 9-time first-team All-Defender. He has 4 rings. He won Defensive Player of the Year. Even though when you think of those Warrior teams, you're going to think of Steph, KD era, Clay, and then Draymond next. He's a hell of a player. It's just he's also out of there, just completely out of there. When he gets on that court, like when you hear him very articulate, very polished guy. Like they wouldn't bring him on Turner Sports if he wasn't. You go listen to his podcast, you'd be like, okay, like very well educated. Like a lot of the things that he said in that rant where he was talking about the angry black man stuff are true. He's all those things. So it's very crazy to know that when he gets on that court, a flip just switches. His mindset just changes to he just sees red. And, you know, him being competitive, I get, but he's crossed the line so many times where his reputation, hell, we saw it with Brock Cunningham. We saw it with Brock, like Brock Cunningham had his moment where you're like, yo, Brock, you're bugging.
Oh, yeah.
Brock, you're a little out of control here, Brock. The team needed it in a way, but it followed Brock to where I think it really cost Texas in the Elite Eight when a very clean blocking out call was charged to Brock. If that was anybody else, it would have just been a normal blockout and it would have been over the back most likely. But the fact that it was Brock Cunningham back in 2023 that was boxing that guy out from Miami with the reputation that he had.
And he took an extra step.
What?
You know,
What does that mean? An extra step.
Chad O'Meary was over his back. You're
not allowed to do that.
Right.
You're talking.
And Brock backed up into him and he fell over him. And it looked like to the refs, it was like, oh, that's another dirty play from Brock. I'm with you. I'm siding with you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If Brock just stands there and the guy comes crashing down on top of him, it's a foul. But, you know,
Brock.
Yeah. That was
Brock,
tough.
Man, I miss you, Brock. I hope you overseas doing your thing, baby. You know what I'm saying?
And that remember that call came with a minute left. The game was tied. It was huge. And Chad O'Meary goes to the line and hits 2 free throws instead of Brock going to the line.
Yeah.
And hitting 2 free throws and giving Texas a 2-point lead. But anyway.
I watched that play so many times, man. The refs weren't looking at the right thing. I will die on this take.
I agree.
If you're a ref on that baseline, you are not looking at anything on the perimeter. Your job is to look at the paint. Look at the paint. Oh, you're not looking at the ball in the air. None of that stuff. If the ball is shot, you look at the paint to see if there's any rough stuff going on. The ball will drop. It's science. The ball.
Gravity.
You don't need to watch the ball because if you're watching
Isaac Newton.
ball, Isaac Newton put that on us. You're watching the ball, you can't see what's going on with the physicality down low. Even the split second looking up, you can miss something. The ref looked up. I don't know why. Brock is making contact with homeboy early, doing his job early because he knows I'm not even going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to have late contact so the refs could see something dirty later on because they didn't see the whole play. I'm going to do my work early. Once that shot is released, I'm making contact. I'm boxing out. I'm doing what I was taught in grade school. Use my body, not my arms. He did all of that. That reputation got him. Reputation got him. Sad, man. Sad. RT's still here. They win that game.
Oh, yeah.
RT's still here.
Texas would have had 2 Final Four coaches. Rick Barnes and Rodney Terry. All right. Did you do your live reads while I was gone?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right. Let me get mine in, and then we will head into the commentary. You know what? I'm gonna let my man, Dr. Chad, tell you what's up.
My story starts 15 years ago with the loss of my father to undiagnosed untreated sleep apnea. And this is a very preventable disease, and treatment options are various. Millions of people across America have sleep apnea.
Get the sleep and rest you deserve. We'll find the best solution using advanced oral and epigenetic appliances or CPAP. Plus, we offer weight loss, oral surgeries, and laser treatments. Don't wait. Schedule your apnea evaluation today. 50 first callers will receive $50 off from disposable home sleep study. Sleep Cycle Center. A good night's rest begins here.
Yeah, and don't forget, tell them, go to sleepcyclecenters.com. Tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you, and you're going to get $100 off your sleep study, not just the $50 that is mentioned there. And I have sleep apnea. I have an oral appliance, call it my mouth guard, that holds my lower jaw open. I get great sleep, and they got locations in Lakeway and at the Arboretum. So if you're snoring, it's more than just annoying to the person sleeping next to you. It could be a sign of a serious health risk. Go to sleepcyclecenters.com. Audio-visual consultations, our man, Tom McKay. Look, he's going to bring you the best price on big screen TVs. He'll set you up with a full-blown media room. Surround sound. Heck, you can do surveillance. New lighting, electronic shades. avconsultations.com is the website, but all you have to do is call 255-8678. 255-8678. Tom and his crew will bring everything to you. Cover three. Dining, spirits, and sports. And it's high-end food without the high-end prices, which I love. And great service. And then the menu. I mean, my gosh, the Chop House burger that Texas Monthly calls one of the best burgers in the state of Texas. Texas Monthly. Come on now. The Sean Adams prime rib sandwich. I love the buffalo chicken cob salad. Listen, they got everything. They got the ruby trout with the pancetta. That's Italian for bacon. It's so good. And the $7 social hour menu during happy hour. They got the firecracker shrimp for $7. Come on now. Cover three Anderson, cover 3 Round Rock, and cover 2 183 in Lake Creek. And Doug Young and Matt Dotson, the guys who started cover 3, also have a new restaurant down in Buda called Whiskey Ridge. So if you're down south, check out Whiskey Ridge, because they've been starving for great restaurants down there, and now they got one. Whiskey Ridge. All right. Zay. Yeah, real quick on this baseball thing. It's just goofy that it took this long, but Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and 14 others have been reinstated for consideration for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred made the decision after a petition filed by California attorney Jeffrey Lenkoff, who represented Rose prior to his September 2024 death at the age of 83, and public pressure from President Donald Trump are apparently the impetus for this decision from Rob Manfred. Shoeless Joe Jackson was banned for the Chicago Black Sox. Like, that's how long ago that was. That was the early 1900s. Baseball is so weird, but hey, there you go. So now let's see how the voters handle this the next time the ballot comes up. Who of these 16 guys, I mean, Rose obviously is the leader. Sorry, 1919 is when the Black Sox scandal happened. So, yeah, let's see. Rose should be absolutely slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer. You can put a sentence in his bust or whatever that says he was banned from baseball for 36 years. Put him in. Guy was the best hitter of several generations. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I need Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, McGuire, A-Rod. I need all those guys in.
Yeah, put a sentence in there. I always said put a hall in Cooperstown with needles, across the top, and said these were the best players of the steroid era.
Yeah.
Explain that it was illegal in the United States of America to do steroids, but it was not illegal in the game of baseball. The owner until 2002. So it's like all these guys were juicing. Of course they were.
Yeah, it was fun.
They weren't testing for it. Then they did. And then it was like, oh. But yeah, baseball's so weird. But hey, so real quick on the baseball front, Texas baseball, they got to win one more to clinch the SEC regular season championship. And they're going to OU. OU's got good pitching. Houston Street yesterday, while you were out, said he likes that there's something to play for this weekend. Keeps the guys focused. If they'd have clinched it last weekend, maybe they, I don't know. But obviously Schloss wanted it clinched because he wanted it done at home, so that maybe guys don't press or whatever if they get down in this series. But bottom line is Texas needs one more to win the SEC regular season baseball championship. And Max Ballou, broken thumb since March, surgery to repair the broken thumb. He's been taking batting practice for 2 weeks. Could make an appearance in this series, Jim Schlossnagle said.
Okay.
Schloss, about a week ago said maybe, and that the SEC tournament might be more realistic for Ballou. But Ballou is, he's taking batting practice. He says he's ready. We'll see. This will be interesting because then you would have if Ballou's back in right field, what are you doing in left field? Is it Tommy Farmer the fourth? Is it Jonah Williams? Jonah's been hitting the ball pretty good. Let me give you the latest numbers. Because
I like that. I agree with Street too on that. It got something to play for. It's a rival game, and Jim Schlossnagle was real disappointed in Sunday's outing, that 4-1 loss to the Gators. I don't know. It just seems like they are a little fatigued overall. Obviously, the flu sweeping the whole locker room, that doesn't help any. But, these guys are holding each other accountable. When you hear about the team meetings and guys like Schussler and Ballou and Galvan speak up, Duplantier, letting these guys know, hey, fellas, this ain't the standard. We've struggled these last couple of weekends. We got to give back to the basics. I thought the Will Gasparino thing was interesting too, pulling him out the game and maybe getting him refocused. I don't know what that was about. Jim Schlossnagle going to keep it professional, going to keep it classy, and not going to let the media know that, there's an issue going on. But it's still weird. Because Will Gasparino, he's one of those guys that you rely on, one of those guys you need. He's one of the best MLB prospects that you have on this team. So you're going to count on that guy if you're going to make a big run in Omaha once June comes around. So for him to be pulled when he was this weekend, non-injury related, a little odd, but again, Jim Schlossnagle, there's a reason why he's one of the best in the nation, and he has a point to everything that he does. So I'm going to buy into that. Just something to look at. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they the players said that there were too many non-competitive at-bats from the first. I mean, Rylan Galvan said there were too many non-competitive at-bats from the first inning to the seventh inning. Then they did get competitive at-bats and had runners on base and a chance to narrow the game. They only lost the game 4-1. They couldn't get runs across. And so I think it was a wake-up call to everybody that, hey, flu, no flu, it's time to refocus. So Schlossnagle, yeah, it was the first time we've heard him after a game express that kind of disappointment publicly. And he called it the most disappointing game of the season. And he had a chance to clinch at home on Senior Day, Mother's Day. You got the 2005 team being honored. It was like the perfect time to win a championship for your fans right there. But it is what it is. So we'll see how they bounce back. Obviously, the bigger question is pitching, because the Jared Spencer absence is now really showing up, because Ruger has had 2 rough starts in a row, and Jason Flores had another rough start. So 3 weeks ago, Jason Flores started against A&M, and then Max Grubb started on Sunday against Arkansas. He went 3 1/3. But Schloss said, I'm not, he sounded skeptical about putting Grubbs back into that role, because with the regional coming up, and that's Schlossnagle's sole focus, is getting the pitching staff roles in place by the time you get to the regional, because of the double elimination aspect, and you're going to go through a lot of pitching unless your starting pitching is outstanding. And if it's not, you need Max Grubbs to come in and be the fireman. So, he mentioned it still could be Jason Flores. It could be Thomas Burns. It could be Grayson Saunier. And so he said this week is guys got to show me they want it. And then we'll go from there.
They need to be challenged.
Yeah.
Like, that's your coach challenging you. It's not good enough. I'm disappointed. Like, you ever had your parent tell you that? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. That hurts deeper. Like, I don't even want to waste my energy out on you by giving you a whooping. Just know this hurts. I'm disappointed in you.
Disappointed.
That's tough, man. That's makes you go look at the mirror on yourself and reflect. Like, damn, we gotta get back to the basics, man. And again, just every sport, you got to have luck when it comes to injuries. The Jared Spencer thing is a killer. It is. And I know this coaching staff, I know this roster, they're not going to make excuses. Nobody's going to feel sorry for them. But if this team doesn't win a national championship, we're going to look back at Jared Spencer, the ace, having surgery on that shoulder and not being available, most likely as a big reason why it didn't happen.
Well, it was interesting because I heard Dave Van Horn interviewed the other day, the Arkansas coach, and he said, you're just hoping that you don't suffer injuries to a big-time offensive player or to your ace. And Texas has had both.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had a 5-game lead going into the Arkansas series and still can clinch, and they lost, they got swept at Arkansas and stayed number 1 because they had played so well early that, like, and they still were leading the SEC, which had 7 teams in the top 11 to start the year. What Texas has done this year is phenomenal, honestly, because you brought in some pitchers. You hoped it would work. It worked with Spencer. It worked with Riojas, and now we're seeing maybe it's working with Thomas Burns, who came in from Arizona State, Grayson Sonier, who came in from Ole Miss. You need these guys because Grubbs, Harrison, they've done it. And the veterans who stayed, Ballou, Kimball Schuessler, Jalen Flores, Gasparino, Rylan Galvan, those guys have been great leaders. And yes, Rex, there was a players meeting after the Florida series. Those guys I just mentioned were the guys doing the talking and said, everything's got to be better. So your nutrition, your hydration, your sleep, everything has got to be better. And we'll see how
that's one of them bed checks. If I see anybody on PlayStation or Xbox after 12 p.m., after midnight, we're going to have a problem. One of those, like I could see Rylan Galvan going up into somebody's room, knocking on their door like he the police, letting people know, hey, bro, what you doing? We just got our ass whooped back-to-back weekends. And you out here playing Call of Duty right now? Instead of catching your Z's, we ain't got school right now. This is a good time. We ain't got nothing to worry about. Finals is over. Guys graduating and stuff. All it is baseball right now. And how you treat your body, and what you put in it, and getting right, getting focused, and watching film and making sure the game plan's right. We better know every pitcher up and down when it comes to Oklahoma this weekend. Every hitter, the pitching staff, Max Wiener and them. Get them right. Know the game plan. Know what we're working with. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a big deal winning the SEC your first year.
Man.
This conference.
Oh, man.
With all the bats and arms that this conference has, the coaches, the legacies, the ballpark, and you come in year one, you reign supreme, that's a big deal. So, and you got a chance to do it against a rival too. Huge deal. So I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm glad these guys are getting challenged. I mean, I'm not 100% glad because I wish they were still rolling everybody and winning every series and there weren't any injuries, but that's not realistic. That's not sports. So if you're going to have some adversity, I'm glad that they're recognizing it the way that they're doing, players and coaches, and they're attacking the rest of the season with the mindset of, yo, you could be beaten. You better tighten up, player.
And Street said yesterday, what an opportunity for guys like Thomas Burns, for Grayson Sonier. Like, you've been waiting all year. Make your case now, because you proved to be the guy this Sunday against OU, and you go 5-6 innings. Guess what? You're the new number 3 starter for the number 3 team in college baseball.
Yeah.
That's, sitting there waiting for you. So it's a huge opportunity. And Schloss said, hey, Jason Flores is going to be fine. It's the SEC. People have scouted you now, and you're up against dudes who are grown-ass men as a freshman. So he's not worried about Jason Flores at all. And he thinks that he compared Jason Flores to Chris Cortez, who was a pitcher at A&M who ended up, as a freshman, kind of had good outings, tough outings, but ended up pitching in the World Series last year. So he thinks Jason Flores will be fine.
And that guy that he compared him to is in the pros, right? Or
yeah, second round pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Let's get to the right call.
Yeah, man. So right call today, did the sponsors and stuff already. So I finally watched Shooting Guards about the Gilbert Arenas, Javon Crittenton story. Everybody's been telling me to watch it. all our viewers and stuff.
Got it on my list still here.
Me and Quad and stuff. And yeah, y'all remember what happened. Guns in the locker room, 50-game suspension. So I had no idea about Javaris Crittenton's life after that. Like, I guess when he just disappeared, his, my whole thought on him disappeared too, because I didn't even know about him after the whole locker room incident happened. Like, this dude's been through some stuff. He's been through some stuff. So you go watch that. You'll figure that out there. I'm not going to spoil that. But something that was very interesting to me, which, again, mental health is a big deal. Depression is a big deal. If you have that, I hope you get professional help, whether it's medication or you see a psychiatrist or something, anything that can help with that. No one should have to go through that. It should be taken seriously. And I know it's kind of a tricky subject in sports because we want everybody and their mama to have that Kobe Bryant killer mentality where nothing phases you and you turn everything that's negative in your life and you go revenge mode. Not everybody has that in them. So Javaris Crittenton got drafted by the Lakers, 2007, 19th pick. Remember where the Lakers were at this time. 07, the Lakers were in the finals. If you're an 07-08 season.
Right. That was the Lamar Odom, Paul Gasol,
Kobe, Bynum, Derek Fisher, Phil Jackson, the coach. Really good team. Javaris Crittenton, young guy, one and done at Georgia Tech.
Was Ori with him then?
No, Ori was with the Spurs then.
All right.
He was with San Antonio then. But again, hell of a team, that Lakers team. So if you're a rookie coming in, you're 19 years old, you're a one and done. He talked about how it was just new for him because he was always the best player. He's from Atlanta, 5-star player, McDonald's All-American, went to Georgia Tech. He was a one and done, so he was a hell of a player at Georgia Tech, played with Dwight Howard in high school. So it was different not being the man in LA and struggling for Javaris Crittenton, which it's tough for me to look at that and see that because it's like, damn, nobody was like helping you understand the situation you were in, young man. You're playing with Kobe Bryant. And again, depression's a serious issue. Because that's what he was talking about. He was talking about how depressed he was for not playing and stuff. And that's sad and all, but why wasn't anybody in his ear helping him with the process? And I get it. Kobe wasn't one of those guys.
Right.
Kobe didn't have much empathy for these young guys in the game that didn't understand how hard you had to work. Like, Kobe didn't have any room for entitlement. Kobe wasn't going to hold your hand. Kobe wasn't that type of leader. Kobe was a lead by example guy. And
Kobe was a killer.
He was a killer. Jordan had that about him. Like Kobe, you hear certain stories about Kobe being a good teammate later on in his career. But at that time, 07, 08, Kobe was still in revenge mode on, I got to get more rings than Shaq. I got to prove to everybody and their mama I can be the man without Shaquille O'Neal. I could be that guy because I didn't get the credit I deserved when it came to those first 3 rings. That was Kobe's mindset the whole time. So Javaris Crittenton, sorry, bro. If you don't get this, then I'm not going to be there to hold your hand and help you, which that's where I was kind of like, oh, man, it should have been different for Javaris Crittenton. He shouldn't have had that mindset of, damn, I'm not playing. What's going on? You're on a good team, bro. You're not going to take Derek Fisher's minutes. Sorry, that's not happening. Jordan Farmar, people forget how good he was during that time. Coming out of UCLA, he was a hell of a player. You're not going to take his minutes, which he didn't have many minutes because he was backing up Derek Fisher. So if you're a point guard like Crittenton was, especially a scoring point guard, you're not going to score on this team. You're not going to have the ball in your hands because 24 is going to have the ball in his hands. It's Kobe freaking Bryant. So Phil Jackson, from the old school, he wasn't holding Javaris Crittenton's hand either. And then Javaris Crittenton became depressed and then went through a very dark road. Started hanging out with the Crips and stuff because he was in LA, just completely down the wrong road. And that's sad to know and see, but also you're like, man, you should have had an OG there to help you. Like, where was Derek Fisher? Which, again, Derek Fisher probably ain't the best person ever. He did steal Matt Barnes' woman and didn't tell Matt Barnes that he was around his kids all the time, or Matt Barnes had to run him down. So Derek Fisher, he's not like a class act all the way either, even though he was a hell of a player during his time. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, where was that OG? Where were those coaches that were there for Javaris Crittenton that, we drafted you for a reason, bruh. It's just not your time right now. Some guys have to have that reassurance. Some guys don't need it. Some guys understand it. But if you're 19 years old and you've always been the man and you're from the projects, then it might be a little bit of a change for you to buy into what is going on around you. Because, hell, if that's me, I'm a sponge, Chip. If I'm Javaris Crittenton, I'm around Kobe every day. I'm around Pau Gasol. I'm around Phil Jackson. Did Javaris Crittenton not watch the Bulls in the 90s? Does he not understand, like, what Phil Jackson means to the league and the association? You know what I'm saying? Like, that right there, you should have a different mindset on how you have to come to work every day. It's going to be difficult. You're probably not going to play. You got to prove to these guys that you're worthy of getting on the court. And Javaris Crittenton, he didn't have that father figure around, grew up around mostly women, his moms, his aunties, grandma, etc. in the projects. So you could see why his life went left when it should have been right the whole time, with him being the draft pick and making all that money. But it's very interesting documentary. Gilbert Arenas, big fan of Gilbert. He's a part of the media now with his podcast with Kenyon Martin, Nick Young, Brennan Jennings, and all them. They're funny to watch. Gilbert Arenas is a character. He talks about himself being a character and how he messed up a lot of things and why he is the way that he is. Very interesting, man. I really enjoyed it. My wife watched it with me. She enjoyed it because she loves a good documentary like that. She always watching true crime and stuff. All those, like Law and Order. Like,
I'm gonna watch it.
It's good. It's good. I was really impressed. But
how many parts is it?
Just one, about a minute or an hour 25.
Okay.
Not too long, but I'm not going to spoil it completely. I just want to take that snippet out. Like, that's one of the things that really stood out to me was how in the hell could you be on a team like the 07-08 Lakers and not like be completely engulfed with what's going on there and winning? That should have been one of the best times of your life, Javaris Crittenton. I would have been living it up. That's like the backup quarterback role on a Super Bowl team or a national championship team. Life's good. I ain't hanging out with the Crips, though. Maybe not them. Maybe some ladies. Maybe some honeys. The Crips, dang. That's a lot.
All right, before we go, I got to get your predictions. We got Pacers at Cleveland tonight on TNT True TV at 6:00. And we got Nuggets at Thunder on TNT at 8:30. You think Cleveland wins at home?
No, the Donovan Mitchell ankle thing, that's kind of the, stick a fork in them, they're done moment. It's just sad. Again, the injuries, low key, have been a huge part of this playoffs, and it sucks.
Cleveland's favored by 8.5.
And that's interesting. I don't, that's Vegas being Vegas, but it's hard to close out a team. Miles Turner's been unbelievable. He's getting the best of Jared Allen, which I can't blame Jared Allen. His role has changed with Garland being hurt and Donovan Mitchell now being hurt and Evan Mobley missing the game. And, Jared Allen's really struggled with the Miles Turner matchup, who's been thriving. Like Miles Turner hitting step back threes. Him and Halliburton have such good chemistry, man. Like they know where each other's going to be. It's just, I don't see how Cleveland wins tonight, but hey, Vegas might know something I don't. That's why it's Vegas. But yeah,
I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Nuggets win tonight.
Okay.
Thunder are favored by 9.5. I think Jokic is getting them boys all fired up. He's going to tell them, I'm going to show up. I don't care how tired we've looked. We got to win this one so we can go home and clinch.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. That series, again,
it's gone back and forth every time.
Back and forth. There's no real injuries in the series. Russell Westbrook's been good some games for the Nuggets where they've come out victorious. And then Alex Caruso on the other side, he's been really good for the Thunder at times to really help elevate their game. He brings a certain veteran presence.
How would you compare Cooper Flagg's game to Caruso?
Oh, he's way better than Caruso. Yeah.
That's saying a lot because Caruso's good.
Caruso is good. They're similar because they're both two-way players. Like Caruso, hustle guy, dive on the floor, team guy, ultimate defender, will knock down a big shot. It's just Cooper Flagg has so much more to his offensive arsenal, which that's what surprised me the most this year. I didn't know he had that type of bag. I didn't know he was that polished with his handle and his decision-making when it came to passing. And, you saw him and that big African South Sudan brother on Duke this past year who will be a lottery pick. Maluach, they would be in the two-man game and Cooper Flagg pick and roll, ball in his hands. And I'd be like, wow, this guy just makes good decisions. And at that time, we were just going off him being 6'9". I know he measured out without shoes at 6'7", some change, but still, he's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. I think, again, like I said earlier in the show, he is not a small forward that has the ceiling like a LeBron or a Durant or even a Kawhi Leonard. It's going to be more like a James Worthy or a Scottie Pippen, where those guys, even though are Hall of Famers, were on really good teams, but they were more of the Robin role to a Magic Johnson or Kareem or a Michael Jordan. I don't know who that's going to be, if he can even find that, but I think Cooper Flagg's going to be really freaking good. He just might not be franchise-changing good. He's just going to be a very huge piece to a team that I'm sure he hopes will be a winning franchise.
Okay.
But,
well,
I'm telling you, man, the Spurs, I don't know what they're going to do. Because I like Harper. But then I'm like, you got De'Aaron Fox, though. You got Stephon Castle.
Well, maybe it's Trey Johnson.
See, maybe.
He's not a killer yet, but he can knock down shots.
You got some killer in him. Trey Johnson doing some stuff. Trey Johnson, Frank Haith didn't do Trey Johnson any favors this year. Trey Johnson, so many buckets came from just, I'm going one-on-one. We better hope Trey could just beat his man.
He's got to get a lot better defensively.
Yeah, that's going to be his.
He was playing that Matador defense
it wasn't that bad.
I mean,
It wasn't like 2015 James Harden or anything, but it has to get better. I agree.
all right. Let's bring in the open gym. Patrick and Matt.
Hey there. Look, it's a number one and number 2 pick in the draft right there. A Mavs fan and a Spurs fan. How about that?
I'm not a Mavs fan anymore, Patrick.
You're a Mavs fan. You got the number 1 pick. Be happy. They're going to fire Nico in a couple of years. It's fine. He'll be gone.
And then I'll come back.
So you're out, Matt. You're out until Nico's gone.
Yes, 100%. I'm standing firm, just based on principle. Can't do it.
Based on principle. Yo, man, as a fellow petty person, Matt, I respect it.
Hey, look, I did it for the Houston Texans until they got rid of Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby. I was like, I'm done with them until they get rid of those guys. So I get it. I get it. But my team also, I mean, we also got the number 1 pick, and I was like, I'm back. All right, they're gone, and I'm back. So we just got to get rid of Nico now. But I'll tell you this, Chip, real quick, about Trey Johnson needing to learn defense. So does Dylan Harper. So does Ace Bailey. All those guys would not play good enough defense last year. They all have the complete athletic ability to do it. So as those guys become not number 1 options offensively, which none of them are going to be number 1s their rookie season, they'll learn to play defense a lot more.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: like Cooper Flagg could win a title for the Mavericks with Nico in position, and I would still not cheer for them. I would still not be a Mavericks fan. I will not claim it. I'm standing firm.
Well, the Adelsons have to be loving the fact that Nico's taking every effing bullet.
Oh,
and not them. And they didn't want to pay Luka the $300 million max, super max, whatever. And Nico's the one who needs a, flak jacket or Kevlar vest.
Yeah, you want to jump on the conspiracy train. The only reason he's not fired is because he hasn't signed that NDA yet, so he can't put out a book burying him in like 3 years. Oh, by the way, I didn't want to make the trade. They did.
Yeah. All right.
Hopefully that comes one of these days.
Appreciate y'all.
Later,
guys. Glad to be back here on Open Gym as he does not remove himself. Why would he not remove himself? Come on, Chip. There we go. All right, as we get into Open Gym here on Texas Sports Unfiltered, myself, Patrick Davis, alongside Matt Galatzan from Texas Longhorns on SI. And no, CB, they would leave the Mavericks name in Dallas, and then the expansion team would become the Dallas Mavericks. It would be weird, but it's going to be – the Seattle team's going to be the Seattle Supersonics when they expand there. But now that's getting pushed back again because Portland just put their team up for sale, which means you can't sell 2 teams at the same time. So that's getting pushed back another year or 2 until they make this Trailblazers sale, because you can't sell a team until there. But that was because the owner passed away, and in his will basically said, sell the team and get all the money to charity. So that's what the Paul Allen family, or the trust of Paul Allen, is going to be doing for the Portland Trailblazers. Welcome into the show. It's going to be fun today. We did get some surprises in the draft lottery. I'm happy with where we're at, but then I've been on making trades and looking through trades and looking through every possible scenario for the offseason. So we'll go through some of those as well. We'll talk about what the draft lottery means. NBA playoffs were also happening last night, and saw some more very important news and big action that happened there that could change the offseason depending on what we hear back from reports about Jason Tatum. We'll get into some college football talk as well as we get into hour 2 of the show. But Matt, I know it's got to be a weird one that the Mavs, in all of your years of being a fan, never get the number 1 overall pick ever. And the year you leave, because for completely reasonable things, they finally get the number 1 pick. Is it bittersweet or just bitter?
I think the NBA is rigged. I mean, this is the same thing that happened after LeBron left Cleveland.
I love it. I love it. It's not, by the way. I can tell you it's not. It's not.
Well, it is, but
it's not. And I can tell you why it's not. Because all owners would have to be in on if it's rigged, and those owners would not shut up about it. There's no chance that a angry billionaire Donald Sterling got called a racist and he didn't let us know it was rigged. Come on. That's baloney.
the coincidence is a little bit too coincidental for me. I'll say that.
People win the lottery every week in this country, and they have less odds than the Mavs had to win this one. Just saying, it happens.
Well, either way, I still think it's rigged. But yeah, I mean, I don't really care. They lucked into it. They don't deserve it. They'll never deserve it. I kind of hope Nico trades the pick, because then he would be really set on fire by the fan base and probably get fired for that. So I hope he trades the pick. I think, look, I'm kind of split on this, if I'm being completely upfront and completely honest, because I myself will never be a Mavs fan until Nico is gone. So I am still, on the side of they don't deserve it. Screw them. I hope that they pick somebody else and get blasted for it. But I am happy for a lot of my friends who are still Mavericks fans, like my buddy Dalton Trigg, who I did a podcast with for years about the Mavericks. He's the biggest Mavericks fan I know, and he's through the moon, and he deserves this because he's been through a lot of pain. So, so good for him and the people like that. Another buddy of mine, Kirk Henderson, as well, is pretty happy. But, it's terrible for me. Like I say that I don't care, but at the same time, I'm so frustrated. Like it's like watching your girlfriend cheat on you, and then she lucks into she meets a billionaire, and then gets married to a billionaire, and you're sitting here and you're not it's weird. It's a weird feeling. But it is what it is. Cooper Flagg is going to be a great NBA player. I'm not sure that, and this is kind of an interesting thing we can probably talk about in a little while. I'm not sure he exactly fits into what the Mavericks' vision is based on what they've said over the last few months since trading Luka, but we can get into that a little bit later. But I feel worse for you because it should have been the Spurs that got the number 1 pick. It really should. That's what I was calling for.
I don't feel bad about the Spurs getting the number 2 pick at all, because it does change a lot of things for the Spurs offseason. I mean, this was a number 8 pick, number 9 pick, because the Mavs already moved up. You're already starting to slide down. And when they weren't there, I was over the moon happy, because you get top 4, that value of the pick. It's basically a 3-person draft. And I know that's kind of rude to Trey Johnson, but a lot of people think that it's basically Cooper Flagg and the 2 kids from Rutgers are really the potential star players, guys that have the ceiling of being Hall of Fame players. Now, does that mean that Trey Johnson can't? No, it doesn't. Trey Johnson can easily still do those things, but they're just not, it's a deeper draft than it was last year too. Last year's draft just wasn't much. The Spurs pulled it out right with Steph Castle at pick 4. They were able to get the right thing. But it ends up that, first of all, let's get this out of the way. I know my buddy Zay posted this last night, and I've seen a lot of people now giving credit to Nico Harrison for what has happened. And we'll set the record straight. Even a blind squirrel gets a nut every once in a while. Just because Rob Pelinka is also an idiot who didn't get the Mark Williams trade done and sent away their only center and had no centers, and also hired a coach who has no experience being a coach. So when they got to the playoffs, the coach imploded and they had no centers to guard anybody and played against a team with some real big men. That's not Nico Harrison being smart, because he's not in the playoffs to see it. That's Nico Harrison getting lucky that Rob Pelinka is also an idiot and didn't put together a good enough team around this thing. Now, I don't think he was trying to win a title this year anyway. I think he was trying to get a future star down the road, and then thought maybe I'll get one more out of LeBron. But I think he knew what he was doing. I'm getting a star, a generational talent for the next 20 years for LA. So, but the fact they turned down that Mark Williams trade, still baffles me. I don't know what you thought you had in Dalton Connect, but I don't see it. So you didn't even play him in the playoffs, and you would have played Mark Williams 40 minutes a game. So that's there. And then the draft lottery, and again, it's not rigged. I know everybody wants to say it. And by the way, no matter who won it, it was rigged. As long as your team didn't win, it's an asterisk. It's rigged. That's the way we watch sports now. It's the most annoying damn thing on the planet, that I can't enjoy anything in sports without some asshole coming out the back end saying, no, because my team didn't win. The world is set up to screw me and me alone. So it's not rigged. No, it's not rigged because they wouldn't have given him to Dallas because they think Dallas will screw it up. You saw Cooper Flagg's reaction to going to Dallas, and it wasn't excitement. It was, boy, I hope they fire Nico Harrison before I get there. That's what Cooper Flagg's face said to me was, I don't really want to go to this team that doesn't feel like they're going to compete for a long time because Nico Harrison just traded away the best player on the team. That's what it felt like to me. But everything that happened, he got lucky. He has not organized this. Now, if we want to say the PJ Washington trade, that was good. The Daniel Gafford trade, that was good. But this is a Mavs team that didn't keep Jalen Brunson. It's a Mavs team that traded away their best player. There's no reason to give any credit to Nico Harrison for getting the number 1 pick. He just screwed up so badly, he got lucky on the back end. That's it. So we can drop that now. Nico Harrison had nothing to do with them getting the number 1 pick. It is random. They just got really, really lucky. They've had bad luck so far, and maybe the basketball gods shined down on the people of Dallas and said, we will help you out. But I don't think it's fixed because why would you give it to Dallas at that point? They already got you what you wanted. You don't need to repay them. And if they told that before to Nico Harrison, then he will blab in 2 weeks, and we'll know when he gets fired in a couple of years. We will know exactly. People don't keep secrets. Nobody keeps secrets. That's why conspiracies usually don't work. People can't keep secrets. There's money to be made in telling the truth later on. So after we go through, we end up with the Mavs with the number 1 pick and the Spurs with the number 2. And now the Mavs get to fall into the world of, we also end up with the Rockets getting the 10th pick. They were hoping to move up. It was really, really funny to watch Utah and Washington fall out. And those teams that tanked really, really hard and just try and suck to get number 1 picks and then never do anything with them. Those guys, it was really funny to watch them. The Utah, one of the co-owners was sitting there and she's all smiles. And then they cut. But this is also how you know it's not rigged because there's no way Utah was in on this. Thought, hey, we're just going to tank hard and then we'll end up with the 5th pick in the draft. Not their call. And also, I think Philly would have probably gotten him because they would have been like, no, we want Philly to be better. They would rather have Philly better than the Mavs be better. So, but all that being said, you end up with a number 1 pick for the Mavs and a number 2 pick for the Spurs and a lot of questions that now go around those two teams because the Mavs can add a Cooper Flagg, but it doesn't necessarily fall into the window that they've self-imposed. That they have now said, we have an aging Anthony Davis. We have an aging Kyrie Irving. How do we build around now a Cooper Flagg who's even younger than Luka Doncic? So now we're happy to have Cooper because he cost us a ton less than Luka Doncic does. But I don't know how quickly he's going to be great in the NBA. So, this may be 2 or 3 years until we get there. So do they say, let's go with this, or do they kind of reset us a whole new plan with Cooper Flagg? The Spurs end up in a place where they are now, the number 2 pick is pretty unanimously Dylan Harper from Rutgers. But he's another guard. You already have De'Aaron Fox. You already have Steph Castle. Chris Paul says he wants to come back. You have Devin Vassell on this roster as well. You are overly loaded at the guard position right now. So do you try and move that trade off? And if you do, what's the actual value of Dylan Harper in this trade and the number 2 pick? Because I have seen gross differences on what the value of a rookie pick is, because some of the Giannis trades you'll see going out there have the Spurs basically giving up their entire roster, more picks than just the number 2 pick, and everything in their future to end up getting Giannis to put with Wemby, including Steph Castle, which is absurd. And you're like, well, what's the value of number 2 if we got to give up an entire roster to get a guy? I don't think that's happening because that doesn't help the Spurs win right now. It just gives them another superstar, and then you have to build back around it with nobody there. So I don't necessarily see that happening either, but there are some different pieces they can go. I think it's going to be an interesting push now for both these teams to see. I know we keep seeing that the Mavs are not going to trade the pick. They shouldn't. I will tell you why the Spurs should call them, but I don't think they're going to trade the pick. I think there is reasonable ways that they could make a pick. They could trade to 2 or 3, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them. But that, again, falls into you'd probably get lynched if you did that. So they probably will not do that. But after everything that went down in the NBA last night, I'd like to look now at some options for the Spurs and the Mavs as we get into the offseason. And we can start with the Mavs because the Mavs don't really. And by the way, we'll get into it. I have a 4-team trade with all 3 Texas teams in it that I think solves everyone's problems, and it will never happen. I think it solves everyone's problems, and we're all good to go. So I'll show you that one here at the end when we talk about it. But Matt, if we're going into the Mavericks and you were looking at this objectively of what you would do with the Dallas Mavericks now that you have the number 1 pick, but you're trying to build this franchise, where do you start looking to build? Do you build around Cooper? Do you try and still keep that window open with Kyrie and Anthony Davis and see where Cooper Flagg is? What do you do if you're the Mavericks right now?
Am I looking at this objectively through the eyes of Nico or through myself?
As yourself.
If it's me, just me, I mean, you have to keep it. I think you absolutely have to keep it. You know, I think he's going to be a good enough player to be effective as a rookie. He's probably going to be better than any guy that you bring in free agency that could do the things that he does. You know, passing on a talent like Cooper Flagg would be not as bad as passing on a talent like Luka Doncic, but it'd be pretty bad. Like, and I don't mean that from a Mavericks perspective. I mean the teams that pass on him in the draft, like they regret it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's not to that same level, but it's still a talent that you just can't pass up. I mean, his ceiling is like, you know, he has a super high ceiling. Like he could be a Kawhi Leonard type player that can do everything. Or his floor is still super high. Like he could just be better Andre Kirilenko. Like he's going to be a good, effective player no matter what happens. So you get him on a rookie deal. You put him into the lineup and you try to compete for a title. I legitimately think that there's a question and that they won't do that though, because as you said, they've self-imposed this window on themselves and they've put themselves into a corner of this is the type of team we want. We want to compete for a title right now. And I think that if you're looking at it through that lens, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that they're going to trade the pick for. I mean, let's be honest. Cooper Flagg is going to command a lot more value at the number 1 pick than Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey at number 2 or number 3. So you could legitimately go out there and try and trade for a Giannis or try and trade for another superstar with that pick for especially one from a team who's not going to be competing because they want to rebuild or something like that.
So the issue with trading him for a player is salary. That's kind of the big issue with trading him is because you already have Kyrie and you have Anthony Davis. That's your big 2 salary guys. So to make salaries work with a trade with somebody else, it's just going to be really, really hard without having to give up one of those 2 guys.
Well, sure, but you can figure out a way to do it probably. And if you have Kyrie, Giannis, and Anthony Davis, you got a pretty good shot to compete, no matter who else is around you. So I still don't think they'll do it. It will be a very hard thing to do. I don't think they're going to do it, but I think it would be dumb to dismiss the idea that they're going to move off of the pick or trade, or, you know, if it moving back or just trading it straight up for a player or whatever the case may be. They are just based on what they've said and based on all the moves they've made, ruling that out would be short-sighted in my opinion.
Yeah. So basically I have 2 things that they can do with this. Is one, you go out there and you put Cooper Flagg out there and you say, we're running Kyrie, and I get Kyrie's going to miss the beginning of the season. Klay Thompson, Cooper Flagg, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis. That's our starting lineup. That's where we feel good about. We got Daniel Gafford coming off the bench. You technically have PJ Washington coming off the bench too. I just think he's a better player than Daniel Gafford, but depending on where you want to go, what Daniel Davis wants to do, that's the lineup you run. You run Cooper Flagg at the 3, which he can do because he can shoot the ball. He can play on the perimeter. I think that's where you put him. And it gives you a decent chance to compete depending on what Cooper Flagg is. We saw Amin Thompson and Asur Thompson both have good impacts, and I think he's going to be a better player than either one of those guys. So we saw them both have really big impacts in the playoffs and being able to push the ball. There is just going to be some issues, and I think you look at that and say, if we get lucky, which we did getting this, and he's ready to go in 2 years, we still have a really good team. We're a little bit healthier because we get Kyrie for the full year then, and maybe we feel we can make a run for it in 2 years, and that's what we're going to go for. So I think that's your clearest, easiest, number one option. I think the only other option in trading him, and I get there's a Giannis thing and everything else, but really with salaries, it just becomes really, really hard. And part of that is the new CBA. So in the old CBA, it would have been a lot easier to do. In the new CBA, it just becomes really, really hard to do those things. So what it kind of ends up with is, can you make a trade with the Spurs or the Sixers? And can you make a trade where you pick up another if you pick somebody else up, that you're able to now move back a spot or two and still get a very high upside player in the draft and add another piece. But that basic difference in value that you're able to get some other piece in there. And I mean, you could technically go back to 4 and go and hope Trey Johnson and say that's the guy, but I think you're going to try and stay in that top 3 because those are really the guys with the really big upside right now. So if you say we're going to trade one of those picks to go get number 3 and move up, I think that's basically the only way you can do it without just being insane and trying to throw anything at the wall. That's really the only 2 options I see right now. Now, I'll show you a trade where they trade it and trade back with the Spurs, and the Rockets are involved in it too, and it's just a big trade of everything, which, again, I love, but it's silliness because it won't happen. But that's really, there's not a lot of options for the Mavs. You kind of have to grin and bear it because you got extremely lucky after screwing up last year to go ahead and get a generational talent in Cooper Flagg, who is, if his shooting continues to improve as well, becomes next level in today's NBA.
So what's, just out of curiosity, because I haven't had a chance to look this up yet,
Yeah.
What's Cooper Flagg's rookie contract? What's his salary?
I mean, probably about $10 million, something like that, maybe 12, 15.
Okay. I mean, I could probably put together a trade where.
Now, keep in mind, you're saying make a trade after it being done, but then you're talking about giving up every single player on your roster. I've looked at these, and without Kyrie or not there, I'm just telling you, it's going to be very, very hard to make that deal go through because you're giving up PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson, and like at that point, okay, well, we got those 3 guys, but we're not a championship contender because there's no one else on this team. Like, you have to keep the rest of those guys. You basically have to trade Cooper Flagg for a star because once it's Cooper Flagg and 6 guys, you suck again. And that's kind of the problem with the salary cap right now, is it becomes very difficult to find that trade partner where you can take on a $40, $50 million contract. And Giannis is going to be $50-something million next year. And so to take on $50 million, which is, even if you say Cooper Flagg's at 15, that's still $35 million you got to make up. And basically everyone else on your roster on those 2 guys is about a $15 million player. That's 3 more players you got to put in there. I get it. Now, that's where you also work in 3-team trades and you try and figure out other guys to put in. That's why I had to make it a 4-team trade to make it work of any semblance to get the value back for Cooper Flagg, is you have to really go find somebody. And I also don't know, the same way we'll go into the Spurs here, I don't know if Giannis and Anthony Davis play together. They both want to be power forwards. They both want to play the same spot. And this is somewhat of the problem in the Spurs scenario. Because the Spurs scenario, everyone keeps saying Giannis and Wemby. I don't really know how that works. They're very similar players. And so, the same thing we saw with Luka and LeBron, you somewhat get into that of you have 2 guys who want to drive to the bucket, who want to play inside, outside, who want to be able to have the ball and be the main guy. I just don't know. I think you can make it work, but it's a lot harder to make work than trying to find somebody that fits in that position. And for the Mavs, Cooper Flagg fits better with what they're doing because he can play small forward and shoot threes and drive and not have to be inside a lot more, where Giannis doesn't necessarily have the 3-point shot to stay outside as much as he's going to want to, or as much as they're going to need him to.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with you, and that's why I think they should keep him. I'm just saying that, and I'll go back to it again. They made the Luka trade because they want to win right now.
Yeah, I get that.
And I don't think you can compete for a title with Kyrie, Cooper Flagg, and Anthony Davis. And, PJ Washington's a very good player. Daniel Gafford's a very good player. Derek Lively is a very good young player. But I don't think that's a championship roster, especially given Anthony Davis's injury problems and Kyrie Irving's injury problems. And, you know, you have to get a bona fide third guy who can help you win right now if that's really what your goal is.
Yeah. No,
I don't think that should be their goal right now. I think their goal should be to build for the future and make the best team they could possibly build around Cooper Flagg, because you're not going to have this opportunity again to have the number 1 pick and get a good young player like this for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I just
I'm with you. That's what I'm saying is most of the trades, when I started to look through it, most of the options for the Mavs don't really pan out. And so I get their urgency in trying to make a deal and their urgency. But when you say, well, we have a power forward, we have a center, we have guards, we really need that wing to come really be a star wing for us. And in the draft is a star wing. I think you take the star wing. And I know it doesn't fit your narrative, but your narrative was also mostly BS because the reality was you just didn't want to pay Luka. So I know you put this whole narrative out there and it's going to shatter with keeping Cooper Flagg, but that's where it needs to be. I just don't see any reason why you trade that pick for another superstar and take on the salary and ditch your roster. It just doesn't feel right. So I'm with you. I think we're both in agreement. You pretty much keep that pick. But I will say for the Spurs, on the other side of that, one thing you do is you do call the Mavs. You call them and you say, what would it take? What value to you? You know, what are we talking about to put in? And if we pitch this to you, is there a way we can move up? Because for the Spurs, they are in the unenviable position of we have the number 2 pick. He's a really good player. We think he'd be a generational talent. And we've already got 2 guys that we think are really good at that position. So now we have to figure out what we want to do at the guard position. And are we going to keep Harper? Are we going to go take that pick at 2 and take Harper, the guy who should be the number 2 pick? Do they go Ace Bailey, who's projected to be the number 3 pick? He's a 6'10" guy. He's 200 pounds though, so he's going to have to put on some more weight. Maybe stretch that window out a little bit further because now it's a rookie that falls into a position you could use him, but you're not sure he's the right type of player to go with you. He isn't necessarily the best 3-and-D guy right now. Take some bad shots, but maybe that's all fixable. And you get a 6'10" guy, you can put some body weight on his frame along with Wemby, and that team in 2-3 years is really competitive. Instead of saying, and you say you could still might get in the playoffs this year if everybody stays healthy, because I think you had a shot to get in this year if everybody stayed healthy. So I think that is also somewhat on the table, is taking Reed Bailey instead of Dylan Harper if you don't move around on that pick. But I call the Mavs because you go Cooper Flagg fits perfectly for what we want to do and keeps our window open for a long time. And you know that because every other executive in the league would try and make this not happen.
So,
but go ahead.
So what if they do call the Mavericks and the Mavericks listen, then what can the Spurs offer the Mavs for the number 1 pick that would make them even think?
You bring in a third team. You'd have to bring in a third team because there's not a player on the Spurs that you could make that work with. So I think that's why I don't think you could technically do it, because you give them all the draft picks in the world, but that doesn't also really help out the Mavs right now. So I don't think if you go, well, we'll give you all of Atlanta's picks and we'll give you all this, I don't think that helps. But I do think there is a way to take a third team and put them into this, which I'll show you in just a minute. We'll go through the other Spurs options, though. The big one is the Giannis trade. We already talked about it a little bit. I don't know how Giannis and Wemby work together. Giannis is a great player. This also really depends on what they want. Do they want the number 2 pick and Atlanta's picks and Steph Castle and Jeremy Sohan? And what are we getting? I mean, Devin Vassell's in the trade to make the salaries closer because Devin Vassell's a $33 million player. So at least gets you a lot closer. Is Jeremy Sohan in on that trade? Is Keldon Johnson? Like, are you giving up 4 or 5 pieces on your roster and future picks to bring in a Sohan and kind of set you back a little bit in your depth? That's a big question as well for the Spurs. And then you can say your starting lineup is Wemby, Giannis, which you still don't really have a guy to guard bigs in the post. You don't really have anybody to go against. You have shot blocking for sure, but you don't necessarily have anybody just body up a big in the post. So that's a little bit of a question you'd still have on there. You then have Steph Castle and Fox is your two guards. Your small forward position becomes a question whether, who's still on that roster at that point. But I don't know. I think it gets you a lot closer to a playoff contender, but I don't know if that makes you a finals contender because I'm just not sure how those guys play together. They feel so much like a similar player.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I wonder if there's a different player out there other than Giannis that would make sense to put in a trade that fits them a little bit better. If you get involved with the Mavericks and you make a Mavericks, Milwaukee, San Antonio trade, then maybe you could figure out something with like one of the Mavs bigs, but I don't know if the Mavs would want to do that anyway. So
yeah,
I mean, the Giannis thing is kind of a pipe dream for all three teams, I think, in the top three, where they're like, oh, we have this pick and, what are we going to do with it? And Giannis is always the first name that comes up. So that's the one that everybody talks about. But there's going to be other players out there that would also, theoretically make sense too.
Yeah, and so a lot of those are guards is kind of a problem for both the Mavs and the Spurs is because if, you have Kyrie Irving, that's one of your better players. And if you're the Spurs and you have two guys that you believe are the future of your guard position, it becomes harder. Now, there is a Kevin Durant conversation. I've seen that one come up. I think it's absurd when I see mock trades of giving up the number 2 pick to go get Kevin Durant. That's absurd to me. I like Kevin Durant a lot. I think he's a great player. I also think he's 36 years old. And I don't think he gives you an automatic championship window if he comes over to the Spurs. I think he makes your team better, but I don't think he necessarily does that. Plus, again, you're giving up players to go get him because he's a $50 million player. So you're having to make salaries match and trade exemptions and whatever else to go get him as well. It becomes a little bit more difficult to go get a Kevin Durant. I think that one falls much more in line of we'll give you some players in the number 10 pick. That one falls a little bit more sense to me for Kevin Durant is that number 10 pick, which is still a decent pick, but it's not, or number 12 pick or whatever it is that the Atlanta pick is. That one makes a little bit more sense to trade that one off for a Kevin Durant, but I don't see them trading the number 2 pick because there's just too much value in, a young team adding another really good young piece than adding a 36-year-old to your roster who is really going to be there for probably 1 or 2 more years. And that's just, it's kind of very short-sighted in that sense to me.
Yeah. I don't think Kevin Durant should be in any of these conversations for top 3 just because of his age. And, look what happened when Phoenix brought him in to try to, establish a championship team with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal and all those other pieces they had on that team. And it just completely tanked. So what's to say that wouldn't happen to one of these other teams that try to trade for him with one of these top picks? I mean, this is not going to happen. So I'm going to preface that by saying this. That feels like a lot more like something the Mavs would do than the Spurs would do. Because it fits their championship now narrative more than it does the Spurs, who are not necessarily in a we are going for a championship this year mode.
No, I'm with you on that one. So then there's another name that I think is really interesting for the Spurs. Now, this is a free agent. You would have to probably do a sign and trade with this guy because I don't know if you'd have the cap space available without making some other moves first. Maybe you get the cap space to sign him outright. But, I mean, right now we don't know what the cap next year is going to be. Basically, no one has any cap space right now. This guy probably wants to re-sign with the team he's on. But there's a possibility you could make the pitch and try and go get him. And maybe this team doesn't want to pay him what he's going to be worth. But Miles Turner, it's a really interesting name to me. Miles Turner fits to me with Wemby. That is a big guy that can go inside. He can guard your big guy inside. He can bump around with people. He can also be a rim protector, but he can also stretch the ball back out, allow the lane to be opened up for you. Miles Turner, to me, is really one of the prototypical bigs I'd put with a Wemby to say this is our twin towers, is Wemby and Miles Turner. I believe he's 28, 29 years old, so he's still got some time left in the tank there. He is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Again, you probably end up sending Vassell away in a trade like this to go get him, but he's a really interesting name. This is not a draft pick trade. This is just a pick for the Spurs that if you take Swain or you take whoever you get, you end up getting a Miles Turner in there to pair with whoever you're picking up at that number 3 spot. That one really, really pushes it where I think that trade to me puts the Spurs on a different level of really starting to fill some holes, because also you're talking about that not being we have to give up a ton of value because it is a sign and trade. He doesn't want to, the Pacers don't want to take on his contract, and, Spurs offer to pay him more money, and the Pacers let him go. They get a player back out of it. Everybody wins. Everybody's happy. That one to me, is just an optimistic Spurs fan with this probably having a 5% chance of happening. That's one that I would go, okay, that one really lights me up.
I feel like there's more of a 5% chance of that happening just because of.
I just think he's going to sign in Indy. I think he's going to stay, but.
Well, yeah, but I think that's certainly within the realm of possibility. He would be a fantastic fit in San Antonio, and then you could still, make your pick with if I am the Spurs and I have the number 2 pick, I probably take Ace Bailey just because of the position that he plays and the fit and, what he could potentially develop into. And then you do the sign and trade for Miles Turner, and you're in really good shape for the future. And Jack Burton's comment, Cooper Flagg would have been a perfect fit with Luka and Kyrie. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he would have. But if Luka would have stayed in Dallas, they wouldn't have been in the lottery. So
yes,
that's kind of a moot point. Unfortunately, I would have. Hey, I mean that just makes me sad thinking about it, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, no, I think Miles Turner would be a fantastic fit in San Antonio. I think that they could compete for a title with him there within a couple years. And it's just, it all comes down to whether or not he would want to stay. And if you look at the NBA free agent list for next year, it looks pretty good because you have LeBron James, Fred VanVleet, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Chris Middleton, Julius Randle, John Collins, but all those guys have player options, and most of those guys are probably going to return to the team that they're going to. So then you have guys like Brooke Lopez, Clint Capella, Bruce Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, and you kind of go down the list. And Miles Turner is the only guy on that list that, until you get down pretty far, that's like, okay, this is a guy that we could potentially really go after. But it's not a great free agent market this offseason. I'll put it that way.
No, but that's also why nobody has free cap space. No one's been planning for this to be a great free agent market.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you go look, as of the salary cap right now, next season, there's no one with any cap space. Like you can create it and you can find ways to get cap space. But as of right now, I think the Pistons are the best, and they are like $1 million over the cap right now for next season. So it's just not a thing. No one was really prepared for it to go that way. The Spurs have the 4th most cap space, which is $30 million over the cap. It's a weird world to be in, but you can make some moves around that and get some guys in if you want to get them. And the salary cap will continue to increase because this new revenue deal came in. And with the new revenue and the Amazon and all that, that'll boost the salary cap up a bunch too. The teams are prepared for that. All right, let's get to my ridiculous trade that I put together as I was playing around with this for the last, 18 hours or whatever it's been since we got through the draft lottery. And I started to think about, okay, how can you make a trade work for something like this? So let's see if we can get this to actually work. If this one's not this may be too small with all the stuff on it. Yeah, it's going to be too small. So let's get, I cut it down. Let me see if I can make sure that this is in the right place. And we'll go ahead and see if we can see this one a little bit better. Yeah. That's a little bit better. All right. So this is your trade right now, as you'd see it, which is basically the Mavericks are going to give up the number 1 pick to the Spurs. The Spurs are going to send them back the number 2 pick. Then the Spurs, as part of this trade to help out the Mavs, are going to send Atlanta back their picks. They're going to go back, and the Atlanta picks they have from that DeJounte Murray trade, the Hawks should not have done. They're going to go ahead and send those picks back to Atlanta, which is a 2026 pick swap. They swap those back. They send back their 2027 unprotected one as well. So the Hawks now get their picks back. They're also going to get the Lakers pick that the Mavs got in that trade with Luka Doncic. We're going to give him that one too, because Trae Young ends up on the Mavs. Trae Young ends up on the Mavs. Jabari Smith ends up on the Mavs. Cam Whitmore ends up on the Mavs, and the number 2 overall pick. The Hawks are going to end up getting Fred VanVleet because Kyrie Irving ends up on the Houston Rockets. It gives the Houston Rockets a legitimate, real player to be a star for them. They also get Daniel Gafford in this trade. You can say no all you want. That's just because you don't like Trae Young.
Yeah, it is.
Trae Young's a really good. Trae Young is an upgrade over an aging Kyrie Irving. And I know you don't like that, but he is. Trae Young's a really good player. But he falls into that where now you're moving off of a injured Kyrie Irving that's going to come back, but he'll be healthy for the Rockets playoff run, which they really need to move off of Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet's expiring contract goes to the Hawks. They can tank. They can get out of it. They can start their rebuild in Atlanta. The Rockets add a real piece. They also add a center in Daniel Gafford. And the Mavericks add in Trae Young, Jabari Smith, and Cam Whitmore to add out that roster, along with Dylan Harper, the number 2 pick in the draft. The Spurs don't trade any players, but they end up now giving up some of their picks to move up and get Cooper Flagg. Everybody feels a little bit better for this. I get the hate for Trae Young, but if you talk about Trae Young, Dylan Harper, Jabari Smith, and then PJ Washington and Anthony Davis, it's a good lineup.
I mean, yeah, it's a good lineup. I don't think it competes for a title, though. I mean, I don't think
more for a title than it is right now, but I think it gives you a lot more a complete lineup.
It might. I'm not a Trae Young guy.
I think it also opens your window a lot more because Trae Young's 26 years old.
Yeah, it does open your window a lot more, but you know, I'm not a Trae Young guy, and it's not just because I don't like him. Like, he can score really well and he can pass the ball really well, but that's about all he can do. I don't think he's a very likable person, like in terms of his teammates either. Like, I don't think his teammates like him. It's not a me not liking him thing. I don't think his teammates like him. I think he's I don't think he's a championship player. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's a clutch guy when it comes down to it. He hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities in the playoffs to prove that, but I don't think he's the like, Kyrie is aging and he's, you know, he's not going to be around much longer, but he has proven in the playoffs throughout his entire career that he can be a clutch player and win you a title.
I get that,
or help win you.
But I'm also going to throw into this in my theory. Kyrie Irving's not going to be there in 2 years. Kyrie Irving's out that door as soon as he can.
Probably.
So we're going to throw into this. I love that. I think Kyrie's a really good player. I don't think he stays in Dallas with Nico Harrison. I think he's like, as soon, you know, I may take that player option because I'll take the money because I'm not going to get it anywhere else. But after next year, peace out, y'all. Y'all have fun.
Yeah.
So now you're going to lose that piece, and that becomes a lot harder. Now, if they can get him on extension or get him within something else, then sure. But without that, that's one of the reasons why I put him in this trade, is because I just don't see him staying long term with the Mavs anymore after they trade away his buddy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. The only reason he's going to stay in Dallas after the season is because of that player option, because he'd be foolish to turn that money down. I bet that after next season, he probably tries to go to LA and play with Luka again. I think that's what he would like to do. So if you can find a way to move off of him and get a good player as a replacement, then that's great. I just don't know that Trae Young is the guy that I would pick for that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I just think Trae Young's available. Out of the available players, the available players right now would look at Giannis, Trae Young, and Kevin Durant. Those are really your 3 most available players. Now, some more may pop up, but as of right now, those are the 3 guys that you're really looking at. It'll be really interesting to see what Boston looks at after this. I think we just saw that CB said a minute ago that Tatum had surgery to repair a torn Achilles, according to Shams. I didn't know if it was an ACL or an Achilles when he went down with that, but it was clearly something bad last night. We'll get into that in a minute. But that I'm with you. Like, all this being said, I think it ends up the Mavs take Cooper Flagg at number 1, and that's the best decision they can make.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look through everything else. At the end of the day, you're able to get somebody you feel is a generational talent. You're able to get somebody to keep your fan base who is about to riot back in. I do think that you could technically try and accelerate your timeline by going back a pick or 2. But at that point, what do you have to get back for it? What do you have to do in the trades to go get that? And that's where I kept trying to put stuff together. And you just really can't make a trade for anybody valuable without putting Anthony Davis or Kyrie Irving in the trade. And you can't trade Anthony Davis right now because you just traded for him. So it's all said and done, you have to make the trade with Kyrie Irving. But I also like that one just for the Rockets. I think the Rockets you got to get out Fred VanVleet, and that gives you an actual player that can be a scorer for you down the stretch. So I liked it for the Rockets as well, even though they gave up a few pieces. They have the pieces to give up. So I thought for them that was actually a good trade. I agree with you that at the end of the day, you might just still say, I'd rather have Cooper Flagg.
Yeah. I would rather have Cooper Flagg than go through that whole complicated, mess and then potentially not have a guy who can be a superstar down the line and is super young. But the Rockets have the 10th pick. Is that right?
Yes.
Or is it the 11th? Okay, it's the 10th pick. And who has the number 3 pick?
That is Philly.
Philly. Okay. I'm sure they're going to screw that one up somehow.
Yeah, right now it's Dallas, San Antonio, Philly, Charlotte, Utah, Washington, Pelicans, New Orleans, Brooklyn, Toronto, Houston, Portland, Chicago, Atlanta, San Antonio.
Okay. Well, if you look at Houston with that number 10 pick, I think that could be something where if you can put enough players together with the number 10 pick to make it make sense, you try to go get Kevin Durant. That's something that's realistic for me for them.
I mean, in all reality, they're going to try and trade Fred VanVleet. I mean, they've already pushed back his trade, his team option. They pushed back the deadline for it because I think they're talking to him basically, you need to take a massive pay cut or you need to be traded, but you are not worth the money we're paying you. And there's no one in the free world who wants to pay you that amount of money because he's like $45 million player and he's probably the 4th best player maybe on that roster. Like he's not that guy. He can score at bunches, but he's just not. We saw in the playoffs, he just didn't have that value.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They way overpaid him. He's definitely not worth it. But if you can go to the Suns, and you can put the number 10 pick Fred VanVleet, and Jalen Green together, maybe the Rockets listen to that. I don't know. I mean, you probably have to put a couple more pieces in there, but that's something the Rockets would listen to at least.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that may be where the Rockets go as well. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into some college football talk. We'll look at PFF release their top 200 draft prospects. We'll see where the Longhorns end up on that. Field Yates also put up some non-round 1 impact players. The Longhorns got a few on that list as well. There's some more NFL schedule that came out. We still got to talk about the NBA playoffs. And I'm going to yell at the commissioner of baseball again because there's some idiots out there. There's some idiots out there, spiteful people. But we'll get into all that as we continue on. Anything else you guys want to talk about there on the chat or the text line, throw it on in there. If you've got any trade scenarios you love, we'll shoot them down. Matt will shoot them all down. He's an angry Mavs fan, angry ex-Mavs fan coming at you. He's going to shoot them all down. But he's not wrong. It's Cooper Flagg. So we'll keep going here on a Tuesday afternoon here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered.
At Sleep Cycle Center, we can treat your sleep apnea in various ways. My story starts 15 years ago with the loss of my father to undiagnosed untreated sleep apnea. And this is a very preventable disease and treatment options are various. Millions of people across America have sleep apnea and they fail to realize the early warning signs. Fatigue, daytime sleepiness, and snoring are the most common signs. We'll find the best solution using advanced technology, oral and epigenetic appliances, or CPAP. We offer weight loss, oral surgery, and laser treatments. Schedule your appointment today and get your sleep evaluation.
If you're looking to remodel a kitchen, renovate your bathroom, or maybe add some new life to your outdoor space, reach out to our friends at McCall Custom Homes. They are custom home builders and renovators here in Central Texas, and they've been doing it in Central Texas for more than 40 years. It's a father-son team with a ton of experience, and all of that experience is here in the Austin area. So they know what it takes to turn an Austin area home into something truly, truly special. Right now, our friends at McCall Custom Homes are offering free estimates to TSU listeners so they can come out to your place, hear your vision, they can tell you what they can do, and then you can go from there. Don't just take my word for it. Check out their website, McCallCustomHomesATX.com. Look at the gallery of jobs they've done over the last 4 decades. And then when you're ready, again, reach out to them and they will come to you. McCallCustomHomesATX.com, or you can call or text Mike McCall directly at 512-633-9580. It's McCall Custom Homes. We build value into your home.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations.
And Camilla McKay, the new website manager.
Yes, it's true. The kid is officially on the payroll. But more importantly, hockey season is wrapping up in the playoffs, and the baseball season is kicking off.
Don't worry, old man. I've already been to a couple games at school up in Boston.
Then I'm going to pretend I'm not jealous and get back to this friggin' commercial. So just want to remind everyone that big screen TVs are great, but they are not home theaters. I'm here to tell you, you should have a home theater. A projector and 120-inch screen costs about the same as a high-end 85-inch TV.
It is awful nice when I want to watch sitcoms and reality TV at the same time.
Ugh. So, whether you're reminiscing with childhood home videos or drowning out the kids' commotion with your surround sound home theater, Audiovisual has the tools and services you need to meet and exceed your viewing needs.
Hey, Dad, how soon is too soon to ask for a promotion?
Generate your first million, then we'll talk.
Shit, I got work to do.
That's right, so tell them what they need to do.
Give us a call at 512-255-8678 or visit us online at avconsultations.com. And remember to hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
Give us a call at 512-255-8678.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered, rolling into hour 2 of our show on a Tuesday afternoon. There was plenty to talk about. You know, my Spurs get the number 2 pick. I get excited. I was excited last night, so had plenty of things to put together to try and find a trade that would work out perfectly for my Spurs. But, you know, it's a difficult one. Do want to get into some different conversations around sports. I did see this come up today, Matt, that the PFF released their top 200 draft prospects for next season, and the Longhorns did end up on that list a few times. So if I can pull it back up on my computer here as we keep going through, that the Longhorns landed 7 players on their 2026 PFF top 200 prospects for the draft. If you look at the actual list as we start to get into it, their number 1 overall ranking is Caleb Downs. Number 2 is TJ Parker, the edge rusher out of Clemson. Caleb Downs, of course, the safety out of Ohio State. Peter Woods, another edge out of Clemson. One of the reasons why those guys are thought to be really, really talented this year, this Clemson team. And number 4 comes in at Arch Manning. And also we can throw in number 5 is Cade Klubnik from Clemson. So they're ranking some of the Clemson guys really, really high. But Arch Manning is on this one. They basically have it's really hard to tell where Arch Manning goes because he hasn't played enough games for us to definitively say he's the number 1 pick in the draft. And we don't think he's going to be in the draft. But at the same part, he gets to be the number 1 pick if he wants to be, if he plays at the level we all think he's going to play.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets really hard to make these lists because, I mean, the general consensus is that Arch is going to come back. So, but you still have to put him there because in the event that he changes his mind, he will be a top 5 draft pick, assuming that he plays 90% as well or 80% as well as we think that he's capable of playing next season. The ceiling is very evident. You know, if you can make the argument that you could take a guy like who's the quarterback that the Cowboys traded for Cincinnati with the 49ers that was number 3 pick?
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Like if you can make the argument that Trey Lance is a top 3 pick for the 49ers when he came out, you could certainly make the argument that Arch Manning could be the number 1 pick in the draft based on how he plays next year. So it's really hard not to put him on the list regardless. He's, again, probably going to come back, but you got to have him up there and he deserves to be up there.
Yeah, if we go down the rest of this top 10, and then we'll look at where some of the Longhorns fall on this list. They do have Caden Proctor, the tackle out of Alabama, at 6. At 7 is Jeremiah Love, that running back out of Notre Dame. Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee, at 8. Number 9 is Francis Muyaga, the tackle out of Miami. Let's guess that's how we're going to say his name. And Spencer Fano, the tackle out of Utah, comes in at number 10. By the way, number 11 also a Clemson Tiger. They are loaded up this season. There, that cornerback out of Clemson there at the number 11 spot. They are loaded up. But if we look a little bit further down the list, we get to number 13. And number 13, they put in Anthony Hill. This is the first linebacker on that list as well. And it really does feel like Anthony Hill could prove himself to be even higher on this list. But as a linebacker, you know, they just normally don't put linebackers in top 10, you know, as a top 10 pick. So maybe he slides down a little bit because of position. but depending on how much they use him to rush the quarterback this year, and depending on where they use him, falling back in coverage, we could see Anthony Hill continue to grow on his reputation that is already pretty sterling.
Yeah, I think that he has a chance to go top 10. I really do. And it's simply because he can rush the passer and he can drop into coverage. And, Micah Parsons was a linebacker coming out of Penn State. And then he turned into an edge rusher. I'm not saying that Anthony Hill is going to do that, but he certainly has a capability to do the same kinds of things that, the Georgia kid, Jalen Walker and Jihad Campbell, both those guys were technically linebackers, but they rushed the passer quite a bit during their time in the SEC, and they were very successful at it. I think Anthony Hill has a potential to be better than both of those players. So, he has a super high ceiling in this draft. It just depends on how Texas uses him next year, because they are going to have so many edge rushers that they can throw at you. So he's probably going to be a situational pass rushing type guy next year. And if they don't use him enough in that, his draft stock could slide a little bit. But the impact of a linebacker who can do everything is just it's invaluable to a franchise. So I don't think he'd slip too far.
Coming in, I believe this is the second cornerback on this list. We do have Caleb Downs, who's a safety, is the number one player overall, but and then they also have another safety out of Purdue. But the second cornerback on this list, and picked PFF ranked 25, is Manny Muhammad. Manny Muhammad, one of those players that last season really did well to not have his name mentioned, which is kind of one of those things, like offensive linemen, you don't want your name mentioned. And if DBs, they're not throwing your way, that's probably a good sign that you are doing a lot in coverage. And Manny Muhammad fell into that last season. It's going to be a little bit harder this year, I think, as he's going to be asked maybe to do some different things as they try and figure out what to do without Jahdae Barron in this secondary. They may ask him to move around a little bit more, but if they keep him on that boundary, it may be another year of, we'll just throw the ball at Cubby Black and we'll see what we can get against him.
Yeah, I mean, Jahdae Barron deserves all the credit in the world for winning the Thorpe Award. He was incredible last season, but he also has a little bit of credit to Manny Muhammad, because Manny Muhammad's part of the reason that he got so many opportunities to make plays, because nobody wanted to throw at Manny Muhammad. He's a lockdown guy. I mean, he got beat a couple times. Everybody gets beat a couple times. Will Johnson got beat a couple times. Travis Hunter got beat a few times. If you go back 2 years and look at his tape from 2023 against Tet McMillan, he got absolutely scorched by Tet McMillan. It happens. But Manny Muhammad is an elite corner. I would be surprised if he's not a top 20 pick next year, and he would absolutely deserve it. They are going to ask him to move around and do a few more things, I think. They're going to hope that they can find a guy to replace Jahdae, that they won't have to do that too much. Jalen Gilbo is going to be a guy that they really hope can kind of assume that same type of role, but it's going to be hard to project that. They would love to leave him on the boundary, but I do think that they're probably going to move him around a little bit. And I honestly, even if he doesn't have the same sort of, PFF grade numbers or whatever the case may be, I think that him moving around is going to put a lot more of his different skill sets on tape for NFL teams, and it'll help his draft stock in the long run.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, I think we saw some last year too, which was always funny. We talk about the pucker factor of, coaches planning around your game. And we saw basically the only time people really threw at him consistently was backup quarterbacks. With that, maybe Warren is aware of the game plan to not throw at Manny Muhammad. We're going to try out the other side. We're going to try and find other options. So backup quarterbacks would test him a little bit more. They didn't have a ton of success against him either. You're going to lose some of those all the time, especially when you play top talents. But Manny Muhammad is definitely going to be one of your top DBs taken. And depending on what he does this year, I think people just want to see him get thrown at a little bit more. And depending on that, if he gets thrown at a little bit more, then maybe, if you get that interception or two more that he could get, that maybe raises his value up a little bit more. But as long as they don't throw at him at a certain point, if you go, well, it's now year 2 of them not throwing the ball his direction, that would tell you this is not a fluke that was 1 year that no one went at him. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what we get out of Manny Muhammad this year. He could definitely move up on that board pretty easily. Number 36, how about another guy out there in the secondary, Michael Taft? one of the great stories of Texas football. I mean, probably of all time at this point, especially if he can finish the story and get that title. We saw him so emotional about not getting last year, where he talked about the reason why he was so emotional is he'd already basically decided he didn't want this hanging over his head. He didn't want to wait. So he had decided before the playoffs that he was going to win a title and he was going to walk off in the sunset and declare for the draft. And when they lost to Ohio State, he was like, nope, all right, I'm coming back. He's like, I want to win that title. So if he does that, he becomes, the story becomes legendary at Texas. But he's even of right now, a walk-on that I remembered, we were doing Ball Don't Lie with my boys Rod and Harge, and we were in the campaign of just when he recruited Arch Manning. Because remember, Michael Taft was one of the heavy recruiters for Arch Manning. It was a guy that like Arch stayed with and hung out with when he came into town for his visits. So for that alone, we're like, yeah, you got to give Michael Taft a scholarship. You got to give him a scholarship. He got you, Arch. You got to give him a scholarship. And that little did we know that he was going to start blowing up. We thought he was a good player, but you're like, oh, okay, now he's getting more reps. What he means to this defense, what he's going to mean this season to this defense for the Texas Longhorns, as he is really the one holding it together a lot in that secondary, and especially in the safety room, going with new coaches, new coordinators, everything that they're going to have to deal with in that secondary. Michael Taft's going to be holding it together, just an elite player that makes elite plays. And to see him go from not a scholarship player, a walk-on player at Texas, who we're kind of joking about getting a scholarship because he recruited Arch Manning, to now the number 36 talent in PFF's drafts grades for next year, someone who has the possibility to move up higher with some big plays and some good play and another year of play for Texas. This guy, the story is amazing, and the player is amazing too.
Yeah. Michael Taft is exactly the storybook player that college football is all about, in my opinion. He's a walk-on from Austin. He goes and plays for his hometown team, earns a scholarship, becomes an All-American, is arguably the best leader on the team in terms of the players' respect for him, in the locker room, the kind of model citizen that he is, the things that he does to, really separate himself character-wise. And then you turn on the tape, and he's one of the best safeties in college football. He's clutch. He's always making plays. I remember I was sitting there with my brother watching the Texas A&M game last year, and we're sitting out on his hunting lease deck, and he goes, I think it's about time for Mookie to make a play. And literally the next play, Michael Taft gets a pick. It's like, that's the kind of player that he is. He's always in the right place at the right time. He's super underrated as an athlete, in my opinion. He lays the hammer down. He hits people as hard as he can possibly hit them. He's heady. He knows how to play the ball in the air. He can do everything. Everything. And when he first started at Texas, like his first couple starts, I was like, why is he out there? Do they not have anybody else that they could put out there? And it did not take him long to shut me up. I mean, he's an incredible player. If they made a movie about anybody on this Texas roster in the last 10 years, it would be him. I mean, it's Hollywood quality stuff, and he deserves to be, if not a first, an early second round pick for sure.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. Number 67 on their list is Jack Endries, the new tight end that's headed over to Texas in the transfer portal. This could give you good news if you're a Texas fan that, people are thinking highly of Jack Endries. We also saw now what Gunnar Helm was able to do last year, what Sark has done with his tight end position. I think moves him maybe up the board a little bit more as well. But really good to see Jack Endries getting some love on this list as probably a day 2 pick for them right now. Coming out of Texas at the tight end position.
Yeah, I have really high hopes for Jack Endries. I don't know that he's going to have the exact same impact as Gunnar Helm, just because it's really hard to see how everything is going to translate over into the SEC. And Gunnar Helm was just so clutch at all the right moments. But he certainly has the talent and the capabilities to do it. I think he fits their scheme perfectly. He's got the athletic ability. He's got the ability to catch the ball in tight spaces, and he can block, and he can do everything. So just another guy that is a transfer that's going to end up being a high NFL draft pick for Sark, and he just keeps being a wizard in that transfer portal.
Our next one is number 133, Trey Moore. Trey Moore, they have him listed as an edge. They did not get the memo that he's actually listed as a linebacker now. But Trey Moore can play both those positions. Super versatile. We know his numbers at UTSA were really, really high. His numbers went down a little bit for Texas, but man, when you watch film, when you go back and watch games, because you don't always notice it in the moment. If you ever go back and watch a game and just watch Trey Moore play, his impact on the game is so massive in so many points. And whether it's even just grabbing two guys and grabbing two blockers so somebody else comes free and gets in, or whether it's him dropping back in coverage and picking up somebody and you see the quarterback, he just reads the quarterback's eyes and jumps in front of his first read and allows a sack to happen now because he blocked off a little outlet to the tight end. Just little things like that that maybe you don't notice in the moment, to go along with the numbers that started to come on a little bit more at the end of the year last year. He was so valuable because he was such a smart player, and he's so talented as well, being able to move around. I think that's why they somewhat moved him back to linebacker as well, to learn in those spaces of, we need somebody with a lot of brains to be in that position at the linebacker spot, to be able to look around, see what's happening, and decide whether you blitz or not based on what you read in the game. Trey Moore is that kind of ability and that kind of brain. I mean, I get his size is going to knock him back a little bit in these draft rankings because he's just not a really big, tall guy. But all of those other factors are going to get him playing on Sundays for sure.
Yeah, and the casual fan that sits there and watches and this is no disrespect to a casual fan, I'm just putting that out there first. But the casual fan that sits there and watches a Texas game on a broadcast, it doesn't show everything. And if you look at an edge rusher and he doesn't have the elite sack numbers, then you're like, oh, well, why did we get him? He's not doing his job. Like, he was supposed to come in here and get 15 sacks or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, from day one, Trey Moore was affecting plays in multiple ways. It's not just about the sack numbers. He was getting pressures. He was good against the run. He was doing everything to affect the offense's, the offensive line and the quarterback, so that other guys could also have an opportunity to get in there and make plays. That's one of the reasons that Colin Simmons was so good. That's one of the reasons that Barron Sorrell was so good. And it's because you have multiple guys and a guy that can affect the quarterback. And it's not the same thing as Shamar Stewart at Texas A&M, where he just was constantly there and didn't get the numbers. It's different because he was affecting so many plays, whether it was in the pass game or running down a guy on the perimeter. Like, he can run from sideline to sideline. And that's why I think that he has a chance to go, with it probably in day 2 or early on day 3, is because he's like a Jihad Campbell who plays both positions. He's so versatile, and that's why he's going to be, I think he's going to be better next year overall as a player for having played linebacker than he was last year. And he's not a small guy necessarily. Like, he's 6'3", 250. So that's why I think a linebacker is better suited for him at the NFL level. And he can be one of those guys that can just do everything. And that's why he's such that's why he's a top 200 prospect.
Yeah, there's no doubt that guy has been able to do a lot of different things for Texas. So that not hard to put in there. Only one more on this list, and we'll go into all the ones that I think probably could fall into this list, maybe left off for different reasons. But I think there's still several more guys we could put on this list if we're being realistic about what will actually be looked at after this season. But number 199, at the very end, they're going to throw CJ Baxter in on this list and say that this is a guy that hasn't played enough football to really be there, but we know the talent level is there. If he can stay healthy and stay on the football field, will definitely be playing at the next level and probably head out after this year because he's already had one major injury. So, go ahead and take it while you can. But CJ Baxter makes this list. All he's got to do is stay on the field. We know his freshman season, he was a good player, but got nicked up a lot. One of those things of a freshman, it's a different game. And it's hard because you're going to get beat up and you're going to get pushed around in those moments. And, at points, he just wasn't strong enough yet to do it. I think after another year of training, and yes, he has the major setback with the injury, he'll be back, should be around 100% by the time football starts, should have a lot more weight on him, have a lot more toughness to him at this point, and hopefully won't have lost a step, hopefully won't have lost, the feel for the game, and will be able to make an impact pretty early on in the season. But I think by the end of the season, as he gets more and more used to playing the game and more used to seeing what, fitting into the offense, I think that's when he could be really, really scary for this Texas team.
Yeah, I totally agree. My fear for Cedric Baxter was that he was going to turn into Jonathan Gray and just have, the constant injury issues throughout his career and not really be able to get going. I don't think that's going to be the case. ACL injuries are obviously not an easy thing to repair, but the medical technology and the skill of the surgeons today is so much better than it was a few years ago that I think he has a really good opportunity to have a huge year this year. It might take him a couple games to get his legs under him, but let's not forget, going into the 2023 season, he won the starting job at running back over Jonathan Brooks. That's how good he was and how high they were on him coming out of high school. So the talent is there. It's just all about him staying healthy. I think he will stay healthy. I'm confident about that. I think Texas has a tremendous training staff, so I think he's going to stay healthy, and I think he's going to put himself in a good position to get drafted.
All right, well, let's go look at some of these players that did not make the list, but maybe I'd put in my top 200. Call me a homer, but I'd put him in there. And we'll start with DeAndre Moore. I don't know why he's not on this list. I get he's just a junior. We've seen him mocked as a first-round draft pick in one of our way too early mocks. This guy is a really good player, and maybe we say he's not a number one pick, but with his rise and what he was able to get to last year, his comfort with Arch Manning, what we've seen in the past from that, it would lead you to believe that he's about to have a really good year on a team that maybe needs him to have that. Ryan Wingo, we all think is going to be really good, but this is a Texas team that needs multiple wide receivers. DeAndre Moore feels like that guy. I don't know how he's not in your top 200 unless you're just leaving him out because he's a junior, but you put in other juniors, so I don't know why you don't put in DeAndre Moore.
Yeah, I don't either. I feel like they've been compiling this list for a long time, and maybe they forgot about him. I don't know, but he certainly deserves to be on it, in my opinion. I mean, if he's not a first-round pick next year, he's going to be a second-round pick if he just continues the same trajectory that he's been on for the last 2 years. He had the fortune of learning behind Jordan Whittington, so he's kind of taken on a lot of that same responsibility, not just in running routes, but making sure guys are where they're supposed to be and, blocking downfield and being aggressive and doing all these things that NFL teams really do covet in wide receivers. So if he can just continue to progress the way he's progressed from year 1 to year 2 and do it from year 2 into year 3, then I see a very small chance that he's not a top 100 player by the time we're talking about the draft next year.
Yeah, and I'll get into a couple more juniors here in a minute because they're a little bit more questionable, and they could probably stay in for 2 more years, and that way they'll be a lot higher up there. Unless they just blow up this season, then that's why they go. But we can look at a couple seniors that probably should have been on this list. We'll start with DJ Campbell.
Yeah.
DJ Campbell feels like, I don't know why he's not on this list. He was somebody that probably would have been drafted this year. If he went, it would have been a late pick. You expect with another year, you expect this with him being his offensive line where he is the returning starter, that it's going to take a little bit more of a leadership role. Yes, he has some more stuff to learn. That's why he stayed for 1 more year, but I'd move him up on my list from last year's list to this year's list because I think the extra year is going to help him out. So DJ Campbell for me is kind of another no-brainer to be a top 200 pick in next year's NFL draft. And if that's what we're looking for on this list, I'm going to say that DJ Campbell falls into that as well.
Yeah, DJ Campbell has all the talent in the world to be a high NFL draft pick. There's no question about that. I mean, he was the number 1 offensive lineman in the country coming out of high school for a reason. And it's just taken him a little while to put everything together. And I think that this is probably the year that he finally breaks through and becomes the dominant guard that Texas believes that he can be. So I absolutely agree with you. I think he's going to be picked 100%. And, I would be surprised if he's not all SEC level next year, just based on the kind of things that we're hearing coming out of camp.
Yeah. Then we'll also throw in another senior, Ethan Burke. I think he could be a little bit lower on that 200, but I probably still have him in my 200 for what he's been able to do. I know he's not the most electric pass rusher in the world, but he's really good in run defense. He is someone that can do a lot of different things, and we saw him have some star moments there at the end of last season. Again, I'm not saying this guy is a top 100 prospect, but I think he's top 200.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably fringe top 200, maybe top 250 at least. He has some other things to overcome. Like, he doesn't have the same athletic ability as a guy like Trey Moore or Anthony Hill or something like that, but he's a super smart player. He's very physically gifted in terms of his strength and his ability to move people. And like you said, he's great in run defense. I mean, we saw that goal line stand against Texas A&M at the end of the year where he just burst through the line and got that huge stop that really changed the course of the game. The thing that's going to work against him too this year also is the fact that there's so many people in that edge room that are they're going to take reps, like, Colin Simmons and Baby Bosa and all these guys that are going to give Texas the elite edge rusher room in college football. So he's going to have to kind of stand out from that pack, which is going to be difficult. But in terms of just straight up tools and brains and leadership and all those things, I'd be surprised if he's not at least a top 250 player when it's all said and done.
Then we get into a couple of guys that are seniors, but I would not surprise me if they end the season on this list. No, not right now, but they end. I'll say Cole Brevard or Hero Canoe. One of those guys could definitely end up on that list, but because that's just the trend we've seen with Texas football for interior defensive linemen, I'll say one of those guys definitely has a chance to end up on that list. I get why they're not on it right now, but I'd say they may be able to get there because Texas has just been producing defensive linemen at a very, very high rate.
Yeah, I mean, over the last 3 years, they've just been putting defensive tackles in the NFL year after year after year. So it's hard to believe that they won't do it again. And both of those guys have
you could throw Travis Shaw into that list as well.
Yeah,
one of those guys.
Yeah, Travis Shaw as well. Any one of those three guys, maybe even two of them, just based on what Texas has been able to do with developing players, even in a short time. They'll have a great opportunity. I mean, Kenny Baker is a hell of a defensive line coach, so he's going to have those guys ready to go.
The other senior that you're going to look at this season who has a chance, who's going to get opportunities to put himself on that list, is Jalen Gilbo. That is probably your other senior that you can look at and say, if he plays at a high level, if he continues to progress, we saw flashes of it last season where we thought he was playing a lot better football than he played before. If he continues to grow in that secondary room, if he fits in well with the Dwayne Akina school of coaching, then that guy could climb up extraordinarily fast because he's going to get opportunities this season. And what he's going to be able to do is going to be a big piece of what Texas secondary trying to relive the success they had last year.
Yeah, he's kind of in a similar position to Jahdae Barron as last year, where he's going to be probably moving into a different position, and he's going to be playing on the outside a lot more. And I think that's going to give him an opportunity to prove what he could do. He's been playing in that nickel / star position, whatever they call it, and he does really well there. He's a very physical guy. He can match up with tight ends, and he can match up with receivers in the slot. I think his coverage skills are underrated, and that's why I'm excited to see him on the outside. But also, he's such a good run defender from the secondary that I think NFL teams, when they see that next year out of that field corner position, if he ends up moving over there permanently, they see the way that he helps in the run from that position, then he's going to have a real good shot for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, along with that, a couple more guys that I would prefer stay in for 2 more years, and depending on what they do this season, of course, Jelani McDonald, we'll see how much he is used. If he falls into that role, same kind of thing as Jalen Gilbo is Jelani McDonald. Trey Wisner, depending on where his role is, he may step out a year early, but it's going to depend on what C.J. Baxter does. If C.J. Baxter takes the main load, maybe he falls a little bit lower, but we know what he's capable of doing, and I think there will be a lot of teams who say this guy will be the best backup running back because we just know we can trust him, and he can just get you yards, and he can pass where he can do everything, and boy, would we love to have that as a guy to come in and just secure our bench. And then the other name is Leona Lafau. He's going to be a little bit overshadowed by Anthony Hill, and especially if Trey Moore is going to play linebacker. But that's a guy who was on the field last year solely in the fact that they were like, we cannot have him on the bench. It is silly to have someone this talented on the bench. So he's got all the potential to step up and being somewhat step out of that shadow of Anthony Hill.
Yeah, Trey Wisner is a guy that is very interesting to me because you look at all the running backs that were taken this past year, like in the later rounds, and I'm not talking like 4th or 5th round. I mean like 6th or 7th round. I mean, if he came out this year, he probably would have gotten picked in that spot just because he can do all the different things and he's so tough and is so reliable. So, if he decides to go, he'll get picked for sure. Leona Lafau is, I think, the most underrated player on Texas's team just because of the wealth of talent they have at the linebacker position. So he has a real chance to shoot up. He's such a smart player and he's so tough and he's always in the right place at the right time. But of that whole list of that whole group, the guy that I think, has the highest ceiling to be a potentially a really high draft pick is Jelani McDonald. I mean, he's a freak athletically and he's so tough. He's so big. He's so fast. Like everything that he does is just elite. If he puts it all together mentally and he becomes the elite safety that I think the entire Texas staff believes he can be and that I believe he can be, then, I mean, you're talking about a guy who could be a Pro Bowler one day if he puts it all together. So he absolutely has a shot.
Yeah, no, I'm with that on all of those. But that is a list of the top 200. I think there's more than what they've given us. But we'll say that I'll be happy that some of those guys are in there. Emmett Mosley's another name that maybe we could throw into that list as well. We've known that Texas has taken wide receivers and turned them into something special. So, heck, maybe Emmett Mosley's name falls into that list as well.
Was he a true freshman last year though?
Was he? If he's too young, he may be too young to be on that list. But
I can't remember if he was a true freshman or if he was a red shirt. But I think he was a true freshman, so I think he probably is going to be the part of that next draft class. But that next draft class for Texas, watch out.
Yes, I'm with you on that one. Let's go look over at this list. By the way, Rodney, no, there's no foreigners that are projected to be a top 3 pick in this year's draft for the Spurs to take. I know. Now, they probably could with the 14th pick, though. So with 14, if they keep pick 14, that will most likely be a foreign player. So don't hold out. Just the top number pick 2, probably not a foreign player. Pick 14, yes, that's where they can go and enjoy their foreign picks.
Yeah, we all know the Spurs love their foreign players.
I mean, they revolutionized foreign scouting, and the Mavs should be thrilled about it because that's how you get Dirk Nowitzki, and that worked out for you guys.
I would say so. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's still one of the craziest draft day trades that they had to give up Robert Traylor and Pat Garrity for Dirk Nowitzki. That is,
and Mavericks fans were mad about it.
You giving up Pat Garrity and a guy. I mean, one of those guys didn't live as long as Dirk Nowitzki's career. Robert Traylor passed away before Dirk Nowitzki retired.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like a win for the Mavericks. Yeah. And in all reality, that trade was not done it was done all before everything happened. They just waited to make the way it was done. They had to wait for it to go through because the NBA is weird. But the Mavs knew they wanted Dirk Nowitzki. They never wanted Robert Traylor. They always wanted Dirk Nowitzki. So, yeah, but just some old NBA history there. Let's get into Field Yates put out a list today about rookie impact for non-first round picks. We know that the first rounders will have a ton of impact on their teams, but once you get out of that, who will have the most impact on their rosters? We did see a few players that, Tyler Shuck does not surprise anyone at this point, does it? Is going to have a massive impact on his roster, considering of the Derek Carr retirement. I think Tyler Shuck is kind of the biggest no-brainer going to have an impact of anybody now, right?
I mean, he has to because he's going to be your starting quarterback. And, I feel bad for him because it's not going to be a good football team. And he's probably going to get hit a lot, even though he's got Kelvin Banks there now. But, as we've seen, Kellen Moore has come out and said that they're working him out at multiple positions along the offensive line, so he might not be there at left tackle protecting him. He could be there at right tackle, but if they move him inside for some reason, then I think it's going to be a tough year for Tyler Shuck.
I think it's going to be a tough year for Tyler Shuck no matter what, but
yeah,
that's just because I don't necessarily think that team's ready to go yet. They have R.J. Harvey, the running back for Denver. Again, this is a guy Denver needs a new running back. They're going to put him in. We can go down to Quinshon Judkins at number 4 for the Browns. Travion Henderson, number 5 for the New England Patriots. Caleb Johnson, a whole lot of running backs for the Pittsburgh Steelers on this list. We can get Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver for Houston. This one makes sense as well. This is the guy that they took that they probably had this is a grade where it's just below first round. They're paying him very similarly to a first round pick, giving him the fully guaranteed deal for Jaden Higgins. They believe in him. That's the type of guy they like to have. So no big surprise that he is going to have an impact for this team. This is a good Texans team that should win their division, and being able to put in a guy that is going to catch passes for you almost sure. I mean, they also have Jalen Noel, the other Iowa State player, and Kirk Cousins is also, or
Christian Kirk.
Sorry. Christian Kirk will also be in that wide receiver room along with Nico Collins. But we know you get banged up, Jalen's going to have to play some. Jaden's going to play some.
Yeah, no, I think Jaden Higgins is going to have a big year regardless, just because he's going to have Nico Collins on the other side. He's going to have Christian Kirk in the slot. So he's going to be open a lot. And, I mean, outside of, Patrick Mahomes and a couple other guys, who better to throw you the football when you're open? As long as he's not getting hit, CJ Stroud's going to find you. So I think Jaden Higgins is going to be a sneaky, sneaky good fantasy pick next year. I have high hopes for him.
And then in the honorable mentions, he does throw in Gunnar Helm at the tight end position for Tennessee. This falls in it makes sense. They don't necessarily have anybody that they really want to play at that tight end position. Depending on what depth chart you look at, he may be as far as 3 down. But in reality, if he can build that rapport with Cam Ward, we know what he can do at Texas, and possibly tight ends rookie quarterbacks love tight ends. This could be a really good spot for Gunnar Helm if he starts to build that rapport with Cam Ward at the rookie mini camps and just kind of keeps that going throughout all the camps over the summer. He could be starting sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I believe that by the time you're talking about the week 1 depth chart for Tennessee, Gunnar Helm's in that spot, because I think that I think if they have their choice with the other starting tight end there being on the final year of his deal, if they have their choice, they want Gunnar Helm to win that position. He has to go earn it, but people have been counting Gunnar Helm out his entire career at Texas. And I think people are doing it a little bit right now at the NFL level, because he's just, he wasn't a first round pick or anything like that. So he's kind of flying under the radar for the national scene. But I think by the time Tennessee releases their week 1 depth chart, he's going to be your starting tight end, and he's going to have that rapport with Cam Ward, and he's going to have a good year.
Yeah. And I get why, because he doesn't look like a player that is going to go out and get you giant stats or get you, and he's probably not, but neither are any of the other guys. And he can still block for you every single play, and he can still get out on the outside. He can do everything you need him to do. And so even if he's not doing it at a all pro level, neither are the other guys. So even though you can say, well, this guy may break a big play every 3rd game, or do I want the guy that I trust to go out there game in and game out and put his body on the line and try and get my running back 2 extra yards? Do I want the guy who, when Cam Ward is running for his life, is finding an open space to go get it and has a rapport with his quarterback? That's who I want. And Gunnar Helm can do all of that really, really well. We talked about, Quinn Ewers had the line that he used, I believe it was in the John Gruden, that at Texas, we don't run drawings. And it was Gunnar Helm was really good at finding those soft spots and being able to have communication with Quinn to show, and they can see the same type of thing in coverage and take off. And if he can build that with Cam Ward, then all of a sudden he becomes a vital piece of their franchise going forward. And, we always talk about the tight end position is one of those you don't necessarily have to build on if you get good enough. It's why Jake Ferguson's still sitting there. It's why Dalton Schultz is still sitting there for the Cowboys and the Texans. They go, look, they're good enough. Let's fix everything else, and then when we have a spoils of riches, then we will go and address the tight end position. If Gunnar Helm can just get in there, he'll get a next contract before they figure out the rest of that Tennessee Titans team, before they can figure out all the pieces to get back to him, because they got a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, so I like that you mentioned Dalton Schultz and Jake Ferguson, because that's where I was going to go next with this, because Dalton Schultz was a 4th-round pick. He was picked number 137. Everybody thought he was a blocking tight end. He came in and he was one of Dak Prescott's favorite targets, and he became a starter and was a huge impact player for the Cowboys. Got himself a big contract with the Texans. He hasn't really lived up to that contract so far, in my opinion, but he did the work early in his career and he earned it. Jake Ferguson, 4th-round pick, number 129. He came in as they were trying to platoon their tight ends. He emerged because he worked really hard. He developed a rapport with Dak Prescott. He had a great rookie season. Gunnar Helm is going to be better than both of those guys, in my opinion. He's a better prospect than both of those guys were, in my opinion. So there's no reason to believe that he can't do the exact same thing. He's a better pass catcher than both of those guys were. He's a better athlete than both of those guys were. So I'm very, very confident that Gunnar Helm's going to have the same kind of impact for Tennessee that those guys had with the Cowboys.
I'm with you on that one. Looking over at the defensive players he has listed, he's got Carson Schwessinger is the linebacker for Cleveland at number 1. Nick Umenwori, the safety for the Seahawks, at number 2. Will Johnson, the cornerback for Arizona, now at number 3. Demetrius Knight at number 4. Nick Martin at number 5 for the 49ers. Then we can scroll on down and see Andrew Makuba comes in here, the Philadelphia Eagles safety. They picked him up, and this is as they remodel that. They trade C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Texans, and it kind of opens up a little space. And while Andrew Makuba, basically, while he's lacking in some of the physical abilities that maybe you'd really, really want, his brains may give him a spot on this Philadelphia Eagles roster as somebody that's able to come in there and just pick it up fast enough to go play some solid minutes in this secondary and this defense, as you are going to rotate some guys in that secondary. Andrew Makuba just got to find his space, not give up any big plays, maybe make a play or two, and all of a sudden he's going to be in that rotation for a little bit longer.
Yeah, if until the Eagles make a draft pick in the first couple rounds that doesn't pan out, I'm going to assume that player is going to have a good NFL career. So I believe that Andrew Makuba will have a good NFL career. He's always in the right place at the right time. He's going to be a great player in the NFL. I have no doubt about that. He'll find his way in Philadelphia for sure.
And then in his honorable mentions, Barron Sorrell, the edge going to the Green Bay Packers. Basically, the Packers don't have a ton of pass rush, and he likes the way that Barron Sorrell can come from multiple different positions on that defensive line, be used in different ways to help out their pass defense a little bit more by trying to get in and get a rush on the quarterback. He thinks Barron Sorrell could be used in some of those different packages to be going after the quarterback, maybe pick up a sack or two or pressure or two, just trying to get the ball out of their hands a little bit quicker or make them pick up a sack. I like that Barron Sorrell getting a little bit of love on this one.
Yeah, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I don't like using the term perfect fit very often. I think that there's only a few perfect fits in the history of sports, and that's like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, and Jerry Rice and guys like that. But I'll use the term near perfect in terms of scheme fit and needs and all those things. Barron Sorrell is a near perfect fit for what the Packers like to do. So if he goes in there and he proves himself and he works as hard as he did at Texas and he makes a couple plays early on, he could be a real impact player for them because they need all the pass rush help they can get. I mean, they've got good like starting pass rushers, but behind them, there's some snaps to be fought for. I think he can find his way in there pretty easily, and I think he'll have a good rookie season.
Yeah, I agree with that. We also didn't see on this list Jaden Blue. We've seen his name come up a ton, though, and people that I think are going to make an impact their rookie season. I think that Jaden Blue is, of course, should be on your list of going to be impactful players their rookie season for the Cowboys because they're going to have to use him. whether they want to or not, it feels like Jaden Blue is going to be used. Because again, I'm not even sure Miles Sanders is going to make this roster, much less be a really impact player for them. Javonte Williams I like, but he's not going to touch the ball every single play. And if you go past him, who else is touching it but Jaden Blue? And it's going to give him every opportunity to go in there and make the plays. And we know he has the explosion. So if he can get past that little bit of fumbleitis that he had a case of going into last year that was going around the running back room for the Longhorns, if he can get rid of that, then he's going to get plenty of snaps and plenty of plays for this Dallas Cowboys team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that Miles Sanders will be on the roster week 1. I think Jaden Blue is going to have a really good camp, and he's going to make some explosive plays. So they're gonna move him up the depth chart, and then Miles Sanders is going to be a casualty of that. There's obviously still some things that Blue needs to work on, like his ball security and his pass protection and things like that. But in terms of being able to run the football and be explosive and make explosive plays for your team, he's the best one they have in that room right now. So he's going to get some playing time. I mean, I've seen some lists from other NFL draft people, not named Field Yates, that have him as the number 1 impact rookie, as a 5th-round pick. So it's certainly there for the taking. I think by the time week 1 rolls around, Javonte Williams will be your starter and Jaden Blue will be your number 2 guy. But I think that there's going to be a pretty even split between those carries, and they're going to want him to kind of take over that room if he can do it. And I wouldn't count out Phil Moffa either, because, he fits the hammer role that they need. He's a big guy who can run in between the tackles. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got some snaps too. But Jaden Blue is going to have a real chance to be a key playmaker on the Cowboys.
Let's look over at the schedule release for a little bit there, Matt. Well, we still got a little bit of time in the show. We told you yesterday that the Eagles and the Cowboys are kicking off the NFL schedule, but now we're starting to get some more dates. We'll get the full release Wednesday afternoon, but they're leaking more of them throughout, trying to keep their name in the news, trying to steal sports time away from the NBA. And so they have come out and listed some of their international games. And the big news out of the international game is that the Vikings are playing back-to-back weeks overseas and not in the same country. They're going to end up playing September 28th. The Vikings will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm guessing Aaron Rodgers is going to be hurt and not be able to travel for that one if he does end up on the Steelers. Just not going to make it over there.
Wait. Where was that one?
In Ireland.
Ireland, okay. Yeah. If it was in Amsterdam, I would have expected Aaron Rodgers to play.
Yes. But... Well, he ain't going to play. He's going to be there. But Ireland is where that one is going to be at. And then they are going to take on the Cleveland Browns the next week in the UK in London. So they're going to move from Ireland to London in those 2 weeks, but they have to play 2 weeks in over in Europe. Now, the good news is these are both English-speaking countries, so it makes it a little bit easier than spending 2 weeks where you don't even speak the same language, which can be a little bit more confusing for people. And so you can stay in areas where even if the accents are thick or whatever else, you'll be around other English-speaking people. But this is a big one that a lot of Vikings players are probably going to be very upset about because it is 2 weeks away from your family, where you're not going to be able to go home in between. You're going to be, trying to play in between over there. Now, the second game, you don't have the jet lag where the Browns have theirs. There's all the, different ways of doing it, whether, if you're the Vikings, do you show up early to try and get into Ireland early so you're practicing there and you get over your jet lag, or because you're playing 2 weeks, you say, screw it, we're coming in last minute because we're already going to have to be here for another week and we're just going to risk it against the Steelers. There's a lot that goes into these games. But if you're a Vikings player or Vikings fan, are you very happy you got back-to-back international games?
I don't know if you're a fan or a player, you're happy about it, but if you're the Vikings as an organization, you're happy about it because you get that second week where you have the advantage of not being jet lag, like you mentioned. Yeah. So I think that's a huge advantage in that game. I mean, the Browns are going to be bad anyway, so I'm sure they would have won that game regardless. But it gives you a huge advantage there. The first one, I have a harder time with the first one because I don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be able to deal with the Steelers defense or not. But at the end of the day, having that second game where you don't have to travel, and really you're basically probably taking a short flight or a plane to London. It's going to give you a big advantage. So it's going to suck waking up at, what is it, probably 7 a.m. to watch a football game on Sunday, or 8 a.m. or something like that. But at the end of the day, it'll be fine.
Both games are at 9:30 Eastern, so 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I won't be watching either of those, but we
also
the fans have my condolences.
We also get a couple more. The Rams will be taking on the Jaguars. That should be a fun one in Wembley Stadium there in London on October 19th. On November 9th, you get the Falcons and the Colts in Berlin. And then you get on November 16th, week 11, the Commanders versus the Dolphins in Madrid, Spain. So going south on that one, or it's going to a different country that they've been going to in Madrid, Spain as well. That's an interesting list of places that they're going to be trying to go play. And a lot of teams, the Cowboys do not draw one of these international games. The Texans do not draw one of the international games. So not having to wake up early to watch one of your teams, unless you want to wake up to watch Bijan, in which case you're going to have to wake up pretty early to go watch Bijan.
Yeah, I mean, this is all super interesting to me because, I mean, we're used to having one, maybe two international games, and now there's 5. It seems like a lot. But they're trying to spread the game internationally, so that's great. The guys that are going on the 1 week thing, like every other team but the Vikings, they're probably gonna have a good time because they get to go on, a pretty cool trip and all those. Yeah, pretty cool. Like Madrid, I would love to go to Madrid, man. That would be so much fun. So I props to those teams.
We also got a Week 10 Monday Night Football game. That's Monday, November 10th. They released. This one is going to be Philadelphia versus Green Bay. A really good matchup there, Philly versus Green Bay. It'll be in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Lambeau Field, getting more spotlights on the national stage. But this should be a good one for Monday Night Football in Week 10.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one to me because I have really high hopes for Green Bay. I think that they're one of those teams that could, really surprise some people next year. I know everybody thinks they're going to be good, but, I think they have a chance to challenge for the NFC North. I'm really high on them. So I think I even picked them to win the NFC North when we were making our predictions. But this is going to be an opportunity for them to really make a statement against the defending Super Bowl champs. And, what better stage to do that on than Monday Night Football?
Then we also got the Black Friday game, which is basically, I believe, the Thursday Night Football Amazon Prime game that gets moved to Friday because they do another game on Thanksgiving that's not on Amazon Prime. I believe that's how that works. But they get the Black Friday game, which will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. So it is a 2:00 start time here. So we'll be done before we get to the Texas A&M game, the Texas A&M game. This one will be done, but it is Chicago versus Philadelphia. So not anything that you necessarily have to really pay attention to before you get there. This should be a Philly easier game. Chicago's going to be better this year, but I don't know if they're going to be better enough to compete with Philly there on Friday, November 28th.
No, I don't think so either, but I really hate this Amazon Prime game stuff. I really do, because you got to log on to your streaming service and watch the game, and usually it's like a little bit choppy. At least for me, it's always like these games that are on streaming services like Netflix or Amazon Prime are always like the quality is not great. Like everybody's trying to log on and watch them at the same time, and they're not always prepared for it. I think Amazon's a little bit more prepared than Netflix was for like that boxing match with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson or whatever.
Yeah.
But I still hate these games. Just put it on national TV. Just do it.
I will say I do appreciate the StatCast on Amazon. I appreciate that because you get like the bigger view of the game, so it's not kind of what they want you to see, so you can watch other stuff happening. So I do enjoy the StatCast version of it. So I think that the future will be you'll be able to pick more different ways to watch the game that won't just be the regular, we pick the way you watch. So I think you will start to be, even if it is on national television, they'll be like, if you log on to abc.com, then you're able to go and watch a different version or download the app of ESPN app, and it'll have a different view of it. I think that'll be where they're at because ESPN's now launching their own streaming service. That's its own thing now. So I mean, maybe we'll get to that point somewhere, but I do like the StatCast version on Prime.
Yeah, the StatCast is cool. I think that the NFL Sunday Ticket thing, I think they should kind of jump the gun on this and add that to their coverage so they can really corner the market on it. And just, drop your subscription price so that everybody can have NFL Sunday Ticket.
How about that? Stop charging $1 billion so I can go up there and be like, hey, do I want to get there? Like, it's $100. Jeez. Really want me to
$79.99 a month or something on top of your YouTube TV subscription. It's ridiculous.
No, and I'm like, I get games for free I can watch, right? Like, this is not the only way to watch games. I get if I want to watch a team, it's one thing, but my Texans are going to be on, Cowboys are going to be on. So those are the games I'm going to watch the most. I have Red Zone too. So if I just want to watch random stuff, I'll watch Red Zone. I don't need to pay $70. Just make it cheaper. Make it cheaper. Baseball's made it cheaper. Basketball's made it cheaper. Make it cheaper. Come on. Mm-hmm. We also then see our Week 16 Saturday doubleheader has been announced. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders, a really big game there on December 20th. Also on December 20th, Green Bay versus Chicago. Some big rivalry games going on, division games there at the end of the season. That's going to be a lot of fun. And our Christmas game was announced. The big Christmas game now at 8:15. This will be on Prime Video as well on Christmas Day at 8:15 p.m., 7:15 Central Time. Denver versus Kansas City, a pretty decent matchup this season. I think this is still Kansas City's division, but we'll see as we get into it. And that'll be coming up on Prime Video for you on Christmas Day.
Remind me, Patrick, did I pick Denver to win the AFC West?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure I did. Just because I wanted to do something different, but I'm really high on Denver next year. I think they're going to have the best defense in the NFL. If any team can unseat Kansas City in that division, it'll be them. I'll give them a good shot in this game, but it'll all depend on Bo Nix and the sophomore slump curse that we've seen in the last few years.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to a little bit of NBA playoffs talk and then our meathead of the day. And then, we may throw an extra meathead in there today because there was a big announcement in the baseball world that it just drives me nuts. It's baseball stuff. It drives me nuts. So we'll get into all of that as we wrap up our show here on a Tuesday afternoon here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered.
Hi, I'm Hayden Covert. Welcome to Covert Buick GMC of Bee Cave, your home in the Hill Country for new and pre-owned Buick and GMC vehicles. With beautiful inventory arriving daily, including the GMC Yukon, Sierra 1500, and Buick Enclave, you'll be certain to find the perfect vehicle at an incredible deal. Our service department is also open for all your vehicle maintenance needs. Visit us today for a test drive. Covert, born and raised in Austin. We are professional grade.
Altstadt Beer, the best beer that you can find all throughout the great state of Texas. Y'all know I've been a fan of Altstadt for years now, and if you try it, I think you will be too. If you've already tried it, you know exactly what I am talking about. Altstadt is brewed locally in Fredericksburg, but available all over the state of Texas. So if you're tuned in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, it does not matter. You can find Altstadt at a local grocery store or liquor store. They've got a bunch of different brews, something for every beer drinker out there. The lager, the Kolsch, those are their two flagship beers, both award winners. They are fantastic. The Altstadt Light sacrifices on calories but does not sacrifice on the taste. They've got great pills, tons of great seasonals as well. I'm telling you, one sip and you won't go back to the other beers you've been drinking in the past. It is the official beer of BK. It should be the official beer of you as well. It's Altstadt Beer. No impurities, no regrets.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. Do you have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered as we get to the end of the show right now, wrapping it up. We do have a little bit of NBA stuff to pick up, and we didn't talk about the playoffs yet today. We did see some big games last night with the Knicks taking a 3-1 series lead over the Celtics. It was a barn burner game going back and forth until with about 3 minutes to go. The Knicks start to pull away. There's a loose ball. Jason Tatum lunges for the loose ball and hits the deck. And then the reports are today he has now already had surgery for an Achilles tear. And this leaves the Celtics that you're pretty much toast now. You're down 3-1. Your best player is now off the court. Jason Tatum was the guy keeping you in this game because he's been hitting. Jaylen Brown just hasn't been the same guy in this series. And now Jason Tatum being out, he started sinking threes, which was keeping you in it, even though it's not really good basketball and you're probably still going to lose because stop shooting so many damn threes. I mean, if you watch the end of that game, the Knicks were just taking good twos and they went mid-range and they scored 80% of the time. And the Celtics were shooting 20-30% of the time. So even though they had one more point, the Knicks could just keep on and hold a lead because they kept just going inside and hitting jumpers and really like high percentage jumpers over and over again. They just played smart basketball between Bridges and Brunson. They just had no problem going to it. But we did see Jason Tatum is now out. The prevailing theory about Kristaps Porzingis, who did play 24 minutes, still wasn't a great game, but the prevailing theory around Kristaps Porzingis right now is that he has long COVID. That this is why, he was sick several months ago and is still dealing with that would be the theory of he has long COVID, which means he basically just doesn't have his lungs back yet. And that's something that's going to take a while to come back. And if you're the Celtics and you were presumed to be back in the finals and possibly the front runner to win the finals again, and now you have Jrue Holiday, who does not looks really like he's on the back end of his career right now, 34 years old. He still has a few years left in him, but being the elite defender maybe is a little bit behind him. Kristaps Porzingis, you're paying him a lot of money, and we're not sure when he's going to have his full health back. And now Jason Tatum has an Achilles tear, where, yes, you can come back from an Achilles tear in 6 to 8 months, but that's really rushing it. You should probably wait a little bit longer. I think 9 months would be a more realistic, good, like everything goes perfectly. Look at that. But you could be looking at a year. You could be looking at close to a year recovery. And does he not come back till the end of next season? And if you say next season, Jrue Holiday's another step slower, and Kristaps Porzingis can only play 20 minutes a game, and Jason Tatum isn't there for most of the season, it really starts to look like this thing that you thought was rolling, having no problems, starts to fall apart really quick.
Yeah, this is super unfortunate. I'm not the biggest Jason Tatum fan in the world, but this type of injury this late in the season, it's just brutal. It's brutal for the Celtics, but it's brutal for Jason Tatum too, because he obviously really wants to be out there, and this has got to be devastating for him. But I mean, Brian Windhorst was talking about before this happened, when they were struggling with the Knicks early in the series, that if this thing doesn't go the right way, then you could see something change in Boston, whether that's a big trade or whatever the case may be. Now it kind of seems like if they want to even have a chance at competing next year, they're going to have to do something, because Jason Tatum's not going to be there. And you can't be a winning basketball team with Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jaylen Brown as your top three players. So this Boston thing seems like it's come to an end, which, were it not for the injury, I wouldn't hate it so much. But considering the injury, I have a bit of a different feeling about it. But Boston seems like it's going to be the end of the road for them in terms of like this team the way it's currently constructed.
And I think too, with the new ownership, that why are we spending all this money if we're not going to win titles? So let's shed some of this salary. Let's get back down to a more reasonable salary. I think could be coming in the near future for Boston. And again, I'm not a fan of Jason Tatum. I don't wish that upon anybody. You don't want to see injuries. I just want to see him lose. I don't want to see him get hurt. Just want to watch him lose games, not to get hurt at all. So yeah, do feel bad for Jason Tatum in that. The Timberwolves did close out another one. Anthony Edwards played a great second half. They're able to come out, but this Warriors team tells you if they had Steph Curry, they could probably win this series. They just got to win. They just got to win their next one to have any shot to get to a game 6 and maybe have a Steph Curry return. Because with Steph, they got a shot, but they got to get to game 6. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it with Anthony Edwards playing the way he is.
No, I don't think so either. I wonder if they're going to try and rush back Steph. I don't know if it's even possible, but I don't think they would. Yeah, this is, again, it's just, Anthony Edwards has just been so good. And if you don't have anybody who can kind of compete with that alongside Jimmy Butler, then you're going to have a really hard time. This is, again, another end to a really good organization and basketball team that, this is kind of the end of the road with Steph and Steve Kerr and all that. So looks like we're going to have two elite teams that are going to be heading into next season that could be in a rebuilding phase.
It'll be crazy. We also get a big one. Pacers can close out the Cavs tonight. Donovan Mitchell, a game time decision there to see where he's at with the aggravated the ankle. I'm sure he's going to try and play, but a big game there because the Pacers could move on. We also get Nuggets and Thunders and a huge game 5. Whoever takes this gets a massive advantage. The Nuggets really need to try and get this win to keep themselves where they only need to win 1 out of 2. And I think that's more possible for the Nuggets tonight. The OKC is favored by 10.5 though, and Cleveland by 8.5 in tonight's scores.
I feel like Oklahoma City's been favored by 10, at least 8, 9, or 10 in every single one of these games. So I that number doesn't mean too much to me. If Jokic comes out and does Jokic things, then they're going to have a heck of a chance to win this game and go back to Oklahoma City. Only need to win 1 of 2 would be huge. But it looks like, to me, we've at least, none of the series are technically over yet, but it looks like we've got at least 3/4 of our conference finals teams kind of set right now. It looks like it's going to be New York and Indiana, and then Minnesota is waiting to see what happens with this OKC series. But the NBA is now a huge New York Knicks fan. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's, again, people are like, it's all rigged. I'm like, do you think this playoffs, they're rigging this? I don't think so. I don't think this is where they want to end up with guys going to these markets. Something tells me. Let's get to the meat of the day real quick. I will just share this one. We may keep the other one for tomorrow, but the Rob Manfred definitely gets a meathead of the day today. He is allowed Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson and everybody else that's been banned for life, that received a lifetime ban. He has now said lifetime bans end when you die. We waited for Pete Rose to die so he could not profit off of everything he did to help our sport because he made 1 or 2 bad decisions a long time ago. We don't like him. So in baseball, we're zero fun. By the way, this message of us bringing it back is brought to you by BetMGM and every other sports betting site that we have on the screen while we're playing the game. But we let that man die without going into the Hall of Fame because we're a pack of assholes in the MLB, and everyone in that Hall of Fame should be kicked off of it. I hate the MLB Hall of Fame thing. These guys suck. None of them should be allowed to be around it. The Baseball Writers Association, you guys suck and ruin everything fun in baseball. I can't stand those guys. They continually do this crap, and to really just wait like 6 months after Pete Rose dies or whatever it was that Pete Rose died to then come out and go, oh yeah, we always knew we were going to do this as soon as he died. We're giant pricks about this. I can't stand it. I hit my camera doing this. But yeah, you're the meathead, Rob Manfred. Make baseball fun. Why does it have to just be run by 90-year-old white guys who everything has to be about tradition and real, and everything has to be so prim and proper for a league that cheats constantly? There's cheating scandals constantly. There's nothing sacred in baseball. Stop pretending that there is. Everyone that's played baseball has cheated at some point. There's a Little League scandal every 2 weeks in Little League baseball. Every 2 years, you get another one with like Little League World Series there was 20 players that were too old for it. and we're gonna pretend like there's some growth of Texas champion, some growth that we got to get into with this baseball. It drives me nuts. Rob Manfred, put him in the Hall of Fame while he's alive. It's just a real scumbag move.
I mean, honestly, Patrick, I don't really know how I'm going to follow that one. I totally agree with you. This was a real crappy move to wait. He deserved to be in it a long time ago, man. I mean,
yeah.
This whole Pete Rose thing is one of the biggest black eyes on baseball that there is. I hate it. He really did. He changed the game. He's one of the best players to ever live, and he gets blackballed because he got into gambling. I just hate it. I can't. There's no way that I could follow that up. But I just want you to know that I totally agree with you. And Mike G, yes, Texas has won several SEC championships this year in multiple sports. So, yeah.
Yes, they've let's say we got. I know they've got some. I know they have men's swimming and diving, men's tennis, women's swimming and diving, and soccer all won SEC championships. I think rowing was another one that maybe got there. So yeah, they've won multiple of them. But
that's why they won the SEC All Sports Trophy.
That is why they won it. We got to take off. I'm gonna go get more mad about literally holding it over a guy's head while you're just making billions of dollars off of gambling. Gambling's wrong, but do it for us, guys. Bet on this game, but Pete Rose is a scumbag. Forget you, Rob Manfred. Always a meathead. You suck. All right, we're getting out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with more, but until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean.